That's great. Greetings, everybody. I know I'm hella late. I know. I literally just walked in the house. Oh, shoot. I didn't realize I missed calls, too. That's crazy. I didn't hear that. Damn. I missed a lot. Anyway, am I gonna do that? Yeah, I literally just walked in the door. Greetings, everybody. How y'all doing? Yes, I have been.
All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough to just pull out their phone right now and post a picture of themselves in the year they were born. No makeup, no filters.
Okay.
All right.
Ew. All right. So, yeah, where's the other one? Well, hell. Yeah, that would just about configure. Let's try that one. All right, so I'm still pulling myself together. When I say I literally just walked in the door, I mean I literally just opened my door, and it was a it was a decent day. It was just intense, and which is part of the reason I'm gonna talk to y'all tonight because of this lunar event that is upon us that y'all needs to know about if you don't already. And get that there. And it's a big one. I probably ain't even talking to nobody. I was all up in here and my ass was hella late trying to, you know. Oh yes, my bad, you guys. I'm so sorry I'm late, but that's what it is. I had mountains to move today, and I moved one, so I just got to keep moving them. So that's what I've been up to today. Let me see if I can put this here. I have some news too, not the big news that I brought y'all up on here for, but I still have other news. It's sad news too. Yeah, let's do. Ew, man. My phone's so janky. No, mother. That's not what I want to do. What the hell, man? Not what I want to do.
All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough to just pull out their phone right now and post a picture of themselves in the year they were born. No makeup, no filters. All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough to just pull out their phone right now and post a picture of themselves in the year they were born. No makeup, no filters. All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough to just pull out their phone right now and post a picture of themselves in the year they were born. No makeup, no filters. All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough to just pull out their phone right now and post a picture of themselves in the year they were born. No makeup, no filters. All right, Gen X, let's see who's brave enough.
I can't even X out of this shit. Like, what the fuck?
Just pull out their phone right now.
Ugh. Let's try this again. All right. Okay. Let's get this show on the road. Let's see if I can rig my little setup here. Yeah, I'm gonna be right up on y'all on TikTok here. All right. Glasses. Check. Greetings, everybody. I know it's late. I know I'm late. But not to make an excuse, just to offer explanations. I had a ton to do today. You're probably going to hear Tempest when a temper tantrum, not even a temper tantrum. It's really sad. It's really, really sad. I know, girl. I know. You're probably gonna hear her crying a lot tonight because I know, baby. I found somebody to adopt the kittens. I hated doing it. I feel so awful. I feel really awful. I felt really bad taking them out of here. But I had to. I ain't have no choice. So the kittens, fortunately, it was a homie that adopted all 5 of them. At first she said, just give me 2. And then she said, well, bring all 5 of them just in case. I was like, all right. And then her daughters saw all 5 of them. And between the 3 of them, they were like, we'll just take all of them. So fortunately, they're all together, the little babies. And then Tempest and Storm, I know y'all going to be sad to hear, but Tempest and Storm are actually going to be readopted by the sister that, allowed me to adopt them. So the sister who gave me Tempest and Storm, she is going to come get Tempest and Storm in a couple of days. And just so y'all know, it ain't nothing I sprung on y'all. I had been saying to myself that I needed to give Storm and Tempest back to the homegirl before 9 moved in, before she got knocked up. I've been saying that I was mistaken. I'd been saying that for some time. I was mistaken. Every time I'd had cats in the past, I had kids. You understand? There was like a delegation of duties. You feel me? I bought the stuff. They handled the stuff. The poop and the feeding. And listen, y'all. I'm being, lighthearted about it right now. I felt really bad today, y'all. I felt really, really bad. I really, really did. I was really, really sad. I am still really, really sad because I can hear Tempest's heartbreak. She is sad because she can't find her babies. And so I'm really sad about that. But fortunately, my homegirl is going to readopt Tempest and Storm. And they are going to, and they live close to where the babies are. So I'm just saying that because that's why I'm getting home late. I just got back from the sister that adopted the kittens, and I'm having to try to, nurture my little baby's mama heart. You know what I'm saying? I feel really bad. I really hate that it happened that way, but also I could not take care of them. Y'all do not know. The last 2 weeks, I felt like an ogre. The last 2 weeks. So I was like, you know what? Let me give them out to people who can give them all the little snuggling and attention that they need, because I have to be freed up. And the 3 were enough. The 3 grown ones was enough. 5 kittens running around here. Oh my God. I thought I was losing my whole mind the last 3 weeks. I'm not joking. I really thought I was losing my whole mind. So today was a blessing, but at the same time, it was a blessing. I feel really bad. She is just crying up a storm, and there ain't nothing I can do to console her. I feel really bad, but I had to do what I had to do. So anyway, that's why I'm late. Today is a big day. It's actually interesting that this transpired today, because we're on the eve of a new moon that I'm going to talk to you about after we do our conspiracies, open up the space to welcome in the mothers and the ancestors and everybody that we need on deck to cast this conspiracy this evening on the eve of this here most radical new moon. If you don't know, now you know, and I'm about to get in deep with y'all about this new moon, man, because I was in a wormhole till about 6 o'clock again this morning, 2 days in a row, obsessing over this new moon we about to walk up into. And so get ready. I hope you got your pen and paper out. But in the meantime, let's see. We are the breakers of curses, the casters of glorious conspiracies, and the creators of the new world. I, Cassandra-Floyd, am a divine instrument of my mother's divine will. As such, I am protected and guided by the sacred blood and water of my mother, Jacqueline Jeanette Cook's body that anointed my entry into this life. I am divine because she is divine. Mommy and I are one. I call all of our mothers to this moment. I call on they who govern everything, all time and every space in between. She with 10,000 names. Today it is Oya, Yemaya, Oshun, Iami Aj, the divine architects of existence, usheresses of the new age. Mommy and I are one. I call upon the divine ancestors and the Ashe of every mother on earth to break every curse ever cast upon the mother and her children in all timelines and in every dimension. Mommy and I are one. We, the mother's divine children, conspire together today to forever bind those who have or would harm you, great mother. Mommy and I are one. We conspire together today to destroy everything and everyone in every timeline and dimension that has caused suffering and despair. Mommy and I are one. Today, we embody the sacred and divine power of our mothers. Today, we the tree, we the weavers rewrite all time. Today, we the tree, we the weavers rewrite the book of life. Today, we our mother's divine children call the winds of change. We conjure the primordial dark. We summon the sacred serpent deep from within the earth. We subdue the rogue sun. We control the light. We heal the harm. We embolden the fearful. We instill courageous action. Today, we are staging a global evolution as is our mother's divine will. Mommy and I are one. We, the architects of the new age, now create the new institutions, the new traditions, the new culture, the new ways of being. We ecstatically welcome the radical destruction of all institutions of hate and harm erected by the godheads of war. Mommy and I are one. We have the power. We have the voice. We are the portals of change. Now we employ our sacred breath and we give life and sacred blood to this conspiracy. Mommy and I are one. We command, come the wind, come the storm, come the lightning, capture and judge all godheads of war and all betrayers of the mother's divine will. Bring their confusion and war to an immediate end. Scatter them to oblivion, never to be resurrected. We are the fates. We are the furies. We are the Iami Aj. We are the disseminators of divine time, divine retribution, divine rectification, and evolutionary justice. Mommy and I are one. We are the restorers of heaven on earth under the mother's divine reign. We wake the sacred serpent from her sleep to assist us in this sacred assignment. Mommy and I are one. Love unlimited is our birthright. Harmony is our birthright. Ecstasy is our birthright. Pleasure is our birthright. Freedom is our birthright. This is her divine will. We are the divine executors of her will. We speak her will into the now to reverberate throughout all time, all space, and all dimensions. It is certainly as we say, forever and ever. Mommy and I are one. Mommy and I are one. Mommy and I are one. I, Cassandra-Floyd, as a peculiar expression of the almighty divine she, the great cosmic mother, now join in breath with my global family to conspire on behalf of the whole made well. We are breathing these words together to ensure that our home, her body, is restored to her original perfect glory. Her glory is perfect in peace, love, bliss, happiness, and ecstasy. This world exists because we collectively will it so now. We, as the representatives of the mother's reign on earth, speak this beautiful conspiracy as a single cosmic earthly orchestra to guarantee heaven on earth in joyful compliance with our mother's divine will. Possessing the power of our mothers, we speak this glorious future now. It is certainly as we say, Mommy and I are one. Mommy and I are one. And last but certainly not least, from the great Sybil of Kumea, given to us via the Sybils by Mama Zogbe. Ooh, let me put on my eyes. I don't know how I keep forgetting that. Let me put on my eyes for just a little bit of writing. Hold on. Yes. Speak this part loud if you got the book, y'all. Speak this part loud if you got the book, y'all. Thrice 300 years having run their course of fulfillment, Rome by the strife her people shall perish. Rome is doomed to perish, and that indeed by the judgment of God, because it held her name in hatred, and being the enemy of righteousness, it destroyed the people who kept the truth. There shall come to thee, sometime from above, a heavenly stroke deserved, O haughty Rome, and thou shalt be the first to bend thy neck and be raised to the ground, and thee shall fire destructive utterly consume, cast down upon thy pavements, and thy wealth shall perish, and wolves and foxes dwell in thy foundation, and then shalt thou be wholly desolate, as if not born. Woo! All right, y'all. Let's get this party started. Y'all gonna have to forgive the background, but she is really upset and she don't want to go outside. So, all right. So let's get started. Me too, Java Watson. And we've been doing this what now? 6 months? Every time I get chills. Let me see if she wants to go outside really quick. Come here, girly squirrely. Come here, girl. You want to go outside? Come here, girl. She is upset, child. Ooh, I feel so bad. Anyway, all right. Let's go. So, you want to go outside? Huh? I know, baby. Oh, no. You want to go outside with the boys? Go ahead. Oh, okay. So I'm really gonna try not to be on here extremely long, just because I have a lot to do in the next 48 hours, given the subject at hand. So my name is Cassandra-Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates, founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, located in Los Angeles, California. And I don't know about y'all, but I've been feeling, let me turn this heater off, sorry. I've been feeling away for several days, and I've been feeling away that is more intense than my stereotypically extremely introspective self. And I couldn't, I told y'all a couple of weeks ago, I haven't really been as present since I turned 50. I just haven't been present, as present, because I'm always in a state of like crisis management, you know what I'm saying? And trying to figure out how to traverse like crisis management to like, something that resembles, at least a little bit of normalcy in the world of chaos, right? I get it, right? We all going through it. But this felt different. And because I haven't been present, I haven't really been as, what's the word I want to use? As thoughtful about keeping up with the current cosmological, astrological, astronomical events, right? So the last maybe week, my dreams have been insane. My dreams have been so profound. And my waking hours have been just as intense. The last week, it feels like every single minute, even right now as I'm sitting here, every single minute of the last week has felt like I've just been walking in a perpetual state of uninterrupted deja vu. You know what I'm saying? That little moment where the moment and the time and the surroundings feel so familiar, it's kind of creepy. It's been like that for a week straight, whether I'm asleep, whether I am awake, and it's been sharp, not subtle, like, whoa. Every moment I'm just like, it's been feeling radical like that, right? So, last night, actually the night before, because I think the last live that I did, what's today? Today is Tuesday. I think the last live I did was Sunday. And I told you that the night before I'd written, 57? I counted the pages, y'all. 57 freaking pages of notes. 57 freaking pages of notes in a single night. I was like, this is insanity. Now it's gotten to the point where this shit is insane. 57 pages of notes in a single night from 9 p.m. to 6 o'clock in the morning. So last night, I was like, I'm not taking no notes. I'm not going to watch anything that's going to have me take no notes. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to do some arts and crafts. That's what I'm going to do. So I sat down to do arts and crafts and to just let my YouTube for you play. And I got some arts and crafts done. I did do that. But my For You, what's her name? That y'all, I'll be talking to y'all. Lori Lothian, Lunatic Astrology, came through my For You. And it was about the astrological and astronomical significance of this here week that we are in, child. And I sat up in here like, damn, let me pull out my pen and paper and start taking some notes. So again, I was up till about, I think, 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, taking notes about the significance of this astrological event that we are traversing into as we speak, actually for the last 2 weeks. So that's what was wrong with me. That was my long and roundabout way of saying that was what the hell was wrong with me. Why I've been feeling like I've been walking through a perpetual loop of a scene in a movie or something where everything is so familiar and brand new at the same time. And this astrology is going to explain why, if you have been feeling like borderline crazy for the last 2 weeks, dreams and wake, yeah, I see. Okay, I see y'all on TikTok having, yep. I see y'all having the same experiences. Okay, come on in the room. Because, so my disclaimer for you guys on TikTok, because y'all, I haven't been going live on TikTok very much at all. This is only my third time in a week going on TikTok. But those of you who would like to join anytime, my YouTube channel is DaughterOfTheFates, the same as my my TikTok. So my disclaimer is that I'm not an astrologer. My interest in astrology is being reclaimed as a practical instrument of navigating the world, past, present, and future. And so when I talk about astrology, I'm talking to y'all particularly on TikTok. When I talk about astrology, and the way that I talk about astrology is I follow astrologers. I hear what they say about what the science and the mathematics and the mythology of astrology is attempting to teach us about this moment from their Greco-Roman, perspective of astrology, right? And then I take what they are saying, and through the worldview and lens of understanding that I have, which is as a 15-year devotee of Ifa, what is it that the Orisha are trying to teach us? What is it that the past is trying to teach us? I'm talking about the scientific, the historical, the political, economic past that is trying to teach us about this moment, not some narrow, myopic, dogmatic past, an ever-present, ever impactful past that is not only, quote, attempting to teach us something about now from their perspective. It is like the merging of the all to help us understand not only what it is we walking into, but the ability, all of the possibilities that exist within that for us to shape the coming events. That's, to me, that's the missing piece. Every astrologer that I listen to, I'm always so concerned that, yes, we can observe a world that has been deliberately made hostile and violent and warmongering and despairing. But the whole purpose of astrology, in my estimation, this is coming from one who is not an astrologer, but in my estimation, thank you so much for the donation, Java Wasta. Girl, now this ain't gonna happen. Y'all ain't gonna keep having me run back and forth to the door. Y'all gonna stay in or y'all gonna go out. I'm gonna have everybody in the neighborhood thinking I'm neglecting y'all because y'all got to tear down the door. So anyway, the reason I'm prefacing this way is because ma'am, no ma'am. Lori Lothian, I really like her. Also, I watched Astrology Report, some of what they had to say about today, about this week, and also what's her name, Tanya Gabrielle. I like her because she's always optimistic. Even I need optimism sometimes. So even if the world is falling apart, Tanya Gabrielle is going to be an optimist. And I like that. I need the range. I need the doomsdayers, and I need, like a midway point, and I need like some optimism. So those three were the ones that I watched last night. And the event of this week, depending upon where you are in the world, in California, the new moon is on the 19th. And I think everywhere else, I may be mistaken, it might be the 19th in the whole country, but I think it was that the new moon is only going to be in the United States. In Los Angeles on the 19th, and everywhere else it'll be the 20th. Man, shh. I know, but give me a break. And so anyway, this is gonna be all week. I can tell. Anyway, so the new moon that is upon us, because it's the 18th my time zone. It's probably already midnight. It's already probably 19th for the rest of y'all. Yes. So I know, girl. I know. So the new moon is let me just read from my notes. Let me put my eyes back on. So the new moon that we've already been in, that has been having us feel like, and I've been hearing so many people say it, and I still could not be present enough to like sit, because I knew it was astrology. What I was experiencing, the dynamics, the highs and lows of everything over the last 2, I was like, something big happening in the sky. I don't know what it is. One of these days, I'm gonna sit down long enough to like chart the course, right? And so this new moon is a Scorpio new moon. Now I'm going to talk slow, because there is significant information that I want to walk you through to ensure that you get it. Some of what I'm going to tell you is literally like the placements and the Greek is word for word what I got from these 3 astrologers that I just mentioned. Some of what I'm going to tell you is my interpretation, given my background and my worldview, of what this means for y'all. what it means for us, what it means particularly for melanated human beings, black, brown, red, yellow, particularly what it means for us. And even more in particularly for melanated people in the United States of America. Okay. These things we have to know. So I'm gonna walk through this. I'm gonna walk through this in a tempered rhythm. It's been so long since I've had a okay. So anyway, so I'm gonna take out a pen, I'm gonna take out some paper, and then we're gonna walk through this. So I told you that until the year 2044, when I'm talking to you about astrology, I am always going to preface this way. The period that we are in is ruled, is owned, is governed, is shaped and constructed under the leadership of the planet Pluto, aka the goddess Oya Inyansa, and in the sign of Aquarius, aka her husband, we'll say her husband for the time being, Shango. In traditional West African tradition, Yoruba culture, Ifa tradition, Oya and Shango are the are the game changers of the age. When they're because we're still talking about planets, because of the slowness through which they come into contact with one another. For example, Pluto in Aquarius for the United States has not happened in 250. The last time it happened was in 250 years ago. So because this particular relationship is so slow in its occurrence, a Pluto returns in a nation's birth chart, when they come together. So I'm going back and forth between Ifa, Yoruba, iconography, and cosmology and astrology, modern Greco-Roman mythology and astrology. So I'm going back and forth so you can begin to always draw the connection. When I'm talking about Oya and Shango and the stories of the Apatakis peculiar to the story of Shango and Oya as husband and wife, those two revolutionaries who the only time they come to join each other in battle is to change everything. Is to change everything. Is to wreck everything that has oppressed, that has suppressed, that has brutalized, to change everything for the inevitable better. Oya, Pluto, is the governess of evolutionary transformation. Even when you don't want to evolve, if Oya is on the scene, evolution is inevitable. Whether you go with the flow, or she got to drag your ass kicking and screaming, it's inevitable. Her motto is not one step back, not one step back, forever forward. Not one step back, forever forward. All the pain that you are going to experience in this moment because of your resistance to the new, because of your resistance to the unfamiliar, I promise you that the pain that you experience will be worth the breakthrough that you have. Because the only thing I come in your life to do is to make you better, is to give you more, is to bless you beyond what you can imagine. That's why she is the owner of the mask. She is the owner of the mask, the two-sided mask. Either she wears a mask to get close to her enemies so that she can get them from within, or depending upon your personal circumstances, she removes the mask of your enemies so that they can be seen and judged. You can't even judge your enemies. You can't even punish your enemies. You cannot even, what does our conspiracy say? Huh? We are the executors of divine retribution. Isn't that what it say? We come here as the conduits through which the mother's will is fulfilled. That's what she gave us the flesh for. She was like, there's moves I gotta make in the material realm. So every single one of you are the avatars through which my will can be impactful in the material world. And sometimes my will is retribution. Sometimes my will is revenge. Sometimes my will looks terrifying, but it's actually justice. But you don't even know what justice looks like because your enemy has transformed the face of justice to something that serves them at your expense. This is why y'all got to remove the mask, baby. This is why Pluto got to remove the mask. Y'all rocking with me? Or y'all must remove the mask because you'll see justice as a blind white woman in a courtroom run by men in black dresses. That as soon as you come into the courtroom, you are literally being walked through a ritual where you are the sacrificial offering. Every time. So she said, baby, I came up in here to lay everything bare. Everything bare. And some of the shit I lay bare is going to disturb y'all. Some of the shit I lay bare is going to make you uncomfortable but hold on, you know what? Ooh, okay. Ooh. Look, girl. Look. Well, all that carrying on you be doing out here. Come on. That isn't going back outside now. Come on. That isn't going back outside. Going back to life. Going back to life. Anyway, I'm trying to tell y'all something because I told y'all I was on one. The last live that I did, I was like, damn, I was up in here raging and shit. Like, I left up out this live with a headache. I was like, why was I raging like that? And I wasn't even mad. I was just like, you know what I'm saying? And what you are experiencing, whether through me, whether through your own experiences that you can't quite give word to, you can't quite give expression to, is what is needed. These archetypes, these mythologies, these mythologies that we learn, whether they are Christian iconography, whether they are Ifa, we come back into the traditions of our ancestors. These ideas, these mythologies, these images, these symbols, these icons, regardless of who has attempted to use them against us, they remain as a memory attempting to teach us something if we can see them. If we can actually see them, not see them through the lens imposed on us by the patriarch that is alive in our head, distorting our vision, distorting the way we hear, distorting all our senses. You feel me? And so, I love Ifa. And the only reason that I say I am no longer a devotee of Ifa is because there is no tradition, there is no religion, there is no spiritual system on earth that exists right now that is not completely corrupted and infected with the madness of patriarchy. There is not a one. Now, while I practice this tradition unwaveringly for 50, exactly how it was told to me, to not ask no questions, to take it the way that it is, I said, okay, I'm still keeping mental notes, but yes, I will do the do ballet. You feel me? I'll do the salute. You feel me? Until the mother was like, okay, you got what you needed from there, that evolve. And so, and I remember being a devotee, y'all, there was so much that just stood out as these pivotal moments. You know, you have these events in your life where you have a moment. It's a split second, but in that split second, you are like, oh my God, I know this is going to mean something. Let me keep this. Let me keep it as a memory. This is a pivot point in my life that I can go right back to and say, this is when I made the decision to go right instead of left. I wonder what would have happened. There's so many since I became a devotee. There were so many because My spirit, y'all, our spirit is alive. What does it mean when I say our spirit is alive? Our blood is alive. What do I mean when I say our blood is alive? Our ancestors are alive. And I don't mean in some metaphorical, esoteric, disembodied way. Our ancestors are alive, not only alive and breathing, alive and kicking. How can I say that? Because the scientist in me says, oh, well, there is a study that was just released about epigenetics, genetic research about how we house in our bodies not 7 generations of stored memory and potential, 13 generations of stored memory and potential locked in your DNA, waiting for what they say is the opportune and the perfect environment of the internal biochemical and electrical environment, the social environment, the environmental environment for your surroundings to open those memories up, open those experiences up, open everything up that is still alive and well as your personal Pandora's box, waiting for you to access what has always been there waiting for you. And the only thing that makes it so that you feel like you can access that is because they have created the perfect environment, the social environment, the economic environment, the environment itself, the internal environment to keep you in a perpetual state of rigidity, of hypervigilance, of hyper awareness, brutalizing your eyeballs every day with despair on social media and on the TV and all things bad and all the news bad. So you are constantly rigid, constantly super on guard. This is a biochemical and electrical experience that we're having. These studies, child, these studies they be doing, stay blowing my mind. Stay blowing my mind. And the reason they stay blowing my mind is because we never ask the opposing question. For example, what was one of the studies? I'm gonna talk about it. This is my introduction. I'm gonna talk about it. But 13 generations of stored ancestral memory. All ancestral memory is your genes, chat. It's your chromosomes, it's your genes, it's a DNA, it's your mitochondrial DNA. That's all it is. That's all it is. 2 different ways to say exactly the same thing. A spiritual articulation of the same thing and a scientific explanation and articulation of the same thing. When I talk about the stars, the Orisha, the planets, the astrology, a different way of articulating the same thing. So when you erect your ancestral altar or your goddess shrine and you're using icons and images that you have been trained to use to do certain things, for your shrines or for your altars or whatever, there's a moment where you feel something, whether it's chills, what you call your spidey senses, butterflies in your stomach. You feel not in your quote, just your spirit. You feel in your flesh. Your flesh alerts you through these symbols, these signs, these feelings in your flesh, in your blood. This is familiar. Keep it. I remember this. Keep it. You're going to need it later. So you see what I'm saying? The mythologies, the stories that we tell to explain in a very simple way complicated ideas, beautiful ways, poetic ways, theatrical ways to explain complicated ideas, those who have malignicized the planet use those same images. They use the same images, they use the same symbols, they use the same stories, flip them upside down, turn them inside out, and feed them back to you because they know that your ancient brain, your limbic brain, responds to symbols. It responds to ancient symbols, traditions, rituals, things done over eons and eons before patriarchy even began. It was like, look, why rewrite the book? Why come up with something new when all we got to do is steal the book, flip it upside down, turn it inside out, scratch the evidence of her out of it anywhere it attempts to make itself known, and then put us as the father up in front of it. And what we have to do is just make sure, because they be remembering shit in their flesh. You feel? We just have to make sure that we create the conditions that their flesh is never allowed a moment's rest, so that the mother can stir from within them and remind them. Feel what I'm saying? That's why in the conspiracy, the global conspiracy to right all wrongs that we did at the beginning, that's why in the global conspiracy to right all wrongs, what do we say? We say, we the weavers, we the tree, we the reavers, rewrite the book of life. Do you know what it means? When I said, when it came to me, why to rewrite the book of life? Why rewrite the book of life? What is the book of life? The book of life is you. I just told you that. I just told you that scientifically. The book of life is you. Why are you the book of life? Because you are the peculiar expression of your and all 3.2 million. That's what they estimate 13 generations is. 3.2 million ancestors. 3.2 million ancestors who had genetic code that is linked to yours, but still peculiar in its own expression. Memories, ideas, learned experiences that you have the ability to tap into. You are the book of life. You, in this moment, is your family's book of life. All the secrets of your families is locked in your blood, waiting for you to tap in. You are the book of life. I am the book of life. My grandson is the book of life. That's what it means. What does it mean when we say, we the tree, we the weavers? Why are we the tree? We each are the tree of life. Yeah, that's what it means. We each are the tree of life. What does it mean when we say we the weavers? What does it mean? We, those of us who incarnated with a uterus, this is a literal statement. We the weavers. But guess what? Because our sons come out of our bodies too, with all the power of creation that we bestow on them in our blood and water, guess what? Our sons too are weavers. Mm-hmm. Why? Because God can only give birth to God. That's why. She can't give birth to nothing else but God. What does that mean? What does that mean? We all God. Every creature on the earth that we share the planet with, they God too. Yep. Yep. Every tree we share the planet with, it's God too. They God too. Every rock, every grain of sand, they God too. They God too. And we have to begin to see the reverence in ourselves that we attempt to impose on everything else. We say, look at this wand. Oh my God, it's got this and that and this and that, and it's so powerful. It's powerful because it's in your hands. That's the only reason it's powerful, is because it is in your hands. We bestow, we give power to external things and still somehow diminish, demote, and reduce the significance of who we are in this moment. This had to happen because this Scorpio new moon child is attempting to stage a contest. She is attempting to stage a contest, and she say, I'm gonna need y'all. Child, this damn TikTok, they be way more fickle about my tongue than YouTube. But listen, your mother, the goddess Yah, the Alpha and the Omega, that is who she is. The owner of every liminal space, that is who she is. The spark of light attributed to everybody. She is the lightning bolt. She is the instant illuminator. She is. And she said, I came up in here today. She said, I came up in here today to wreck it all. I came up in here to move your enemies out of the way once and for all. Will you comply? That's the only reason I'm up in here. That's the only reason I'm up in here. but you are the conduits through which I do my will. Huh? You are the conduits through which I do my will, through which my will be done. So will you comply? Will you comply? And the reason I have to go off about this, I went off about it the other day, I know, but it is ever present. And the reason it's ever present is because as much space as Pluto in Aquarius is attempting to give us, as much ammunition as Neptune in Aries, as Saturn in Aries, as Jupiter in Cancer, as Uranus in Gemini, this magnanimous year that we have just literally been handed. Like, y'all gonna make this shit pop or what? Y'all gonna set this shit off or what? Like we all on deck. The illuminator, the innovator, the demystifier, the guardian of revelations. Like, how much do you need to know about your enemy before you set this shit off? How much more do you need to know to be certain? Yep, they are actually diabolical. They actually are so far away from themselves that they are attempting to destroy the entire planet. How much do I need to reveal to you? How much do I need to show you? How many revelations do you need to see to understand the assignment? She said, we done gave y'all everything y'all need. Literally every single planet is on deck at this year, man. This year. There is no year in known human history, and with a high-tech, computation devices to say, okay, well, when's the last time mathematically that these planets were in this arrangement, this and this and this? There's like, we can't even go far back enough. There's never been a year in recorded history, in human history, that this year that we in right now, while you wondering why your life look insane and the administration look, this is the moment. And I got news for you that if we do not accept what we are here for, if we cannot even take into ourselves what power we possess and what we are charged to do in this moment, not sometime down the line, this moment, then I'm just going to tell you that the astrology for 2026 is potentially worse than this year if we do not get our mind right. If we don't get our mind right, our descendants will spit on our graves. Our descendants will spit on our grave. How could they leave us this world like this? How could they betray us this way when everything was in perfect order for them to change this shit forever? They will betray, they will spit on our names. You know what I mean? And I am not trying to be doom and gloom, because I'm not. I really am excited about this astrology. Now, some of the astrologers that I listen to, they was not so excited. But I do not see through the lens that they see through. My world and the way that I see the world is not the same. Why? My experience in the world is different. My worldview is shaped by my actual embodied lived experience. This is what astrology responds to. It's not dogmatic. It's not linear. It's not fixed. It's not fixed. And so because our great yay, Pluto, our great yay, Scorpio, our great yay, Oya, has been vilified wherever she shows her face, and whatever manifestation she shows her face, then the language and the narrative becomes doom and gloom and wars abound and all of that bullshit. But even the astrologers don't tell you what they're supposed to tell you. That even though historically this is what it meant, every single astrological occurrence is teaching us about the dynamics of possibilities and probabilities. Not fixed. Not even the pendulum. Do. That's all you can do is do. Fact. No. Is that the universe? Two-dimensional? Ting. No, that's not. It's multidimensional. There is an infinite number of possibilities presented in these very magnanimous moments. that are attempting to teach us. As much power as your son fakes that he possesses, you have 1,000, 1,000,000 times more power. The only thing in the way of you possessing, of taking hold of the reins of power, is what has happened to your mind and allowing me to remove it from you. That's it. That's all. I know it seems super simplistic, but I'm telling you, it's not complicated. What did I say last time we was up on here? That your Bible say what? That your adversary is the author of all confusion. Not just that. What's his name? What's his name? Sun Tzu in The Art of War says the same thing. What's the dude? Green, the dude Green in the 48 Laws of Power. I might need to read that shit to y'all. In the 48 Laws of Power, he literally walks you through the 48 Laws of Power, and the whole thing is about the art of confusion. What did I tell you in the Bible? It's saying that the adversary, it didn't say the devil, it didn't say the Satan, it didn't say the Leviathan. It said the adversary is the author of all confusion. And that confusion, the word war means to cause confusion. Warfare becomes necessary to the authors of confusion because the act of warfare keeps you in a chronic state of fight or flight, where these scientific studies that they have done for the last 80 years demonstrate that if your adrenal system is constantly being triggered, you do not have the ability to reason. You do not have the ability to prepare. This thing that they're calling, what's it called? Disaster amnesia. You are constantly on a loop that does not allow you to prepare, to think, to reason, to figure out what your strategy you are literally running on these chemicals that when they flood your blood, I'm talking about the hormones, and it's not just adrenaline. Adrenaline is the starter hormone. When adrenaline is secreted, it literally causes a cascade of 13 other hormones that are attempting to prepare your flesh to preserve itself, to fight for itself, to defend itself. So you got the perpetual flood of toxic chemicals. They become toxic because you don't use them. Oh, they become toxic because you don't use them. You beat the shit out of the adrenals because you scared all the time. Can't pay your rent, you scared. Can't pay the rent, you afraid somebody gonna knock on your door with an eviction notice. Your car break down. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? I ain't got enough money. I gotta go to work. Our brain does not distinguish between the tiger and our car broke down. So now you got these constant perpetual floods of what becomes toxic chemicals meant to preserve your life, but your energetic physical output does not harmonize the response. Do you see? Instead of running, fighting, boxing, doing all the things that you need to do to preserve your life in the moment, you sit, you retreat, you hide, you get sick, you don't want to go to work. You do not literally engage in the physical, hard, quick, energetic activity that will bring your adrenals and all of the other hormones that have been secreted back to a homeostatic place, a harmonious place. The reason I'm saying this is because I keep telling y'all our ancestors were scientists. Our ancestors were scientists. Not only were our ancestors scientists, our enemies' ancestors were scientists. They may have been younger scientists, but they still learned by observation what weakened those that they were turning from gods into chattel. That's what we're up against right now. That's what we're up against right now. And fortunately, Oya is attempting, and it's so epic. I'm telling you, all this shit is related. Because inside our bodies, Oya is the owner, the governess of the lungs. She owns the lungs. She owns the lungs. Isn't that really fascinating? Oya owns the lungs. The lungs are your interface between your internal self, your emotions primarily, your internal self and your physical presence, how you perceive your flesh in the world. And the thing that is most healing and transforming of the lungs, your physical lungs, is human touch. You as an entity in close proximity to others is what affirms your place in the group. That's not my opinion. This is Western science after damn near 100 years of studies doing terrible shit to get the information. Denying infants touch to see, how do you think failure to thrive studies came to be? Well, the diagnosis of failure to thrive in infants. Failure to thrive. How do you think that happened? What studies did they conduct to help them understand that you can feed a baby all day, you can change their diaper, you can do all the very bare minimum necessary things, and if you do not talk to that child, if you do not touch that child, if you do not hug that child will die. How do you think they observed that? Diabolical, wicked ass studies that these scientists be doing. That's how they observed it. That's how they came up with the idea of failure to thrive. Do you think that stops at infancy? Why do elderly people develop a whole cascade of terrible conditions that you think are just the consequence of getting old? Because we all hate old people. We are terrified to get old, so we ostracize old people. So we put them away in the nursing home, out of sight, out of mind. We terrorize women in the media, so they be perpetually chasing bullshitting ass youth. You feel me? And so what happens is when you get to an age where you are no longer seen valuable in your society, they ostracize you and you do not get touched regularly. You did not get engaged. People are not looking into your eyes. This just the act of looking into someone's eyes when you're talking to them literally fires areas of the brain that otherwise would not be engaged. Did you know that? Just the act of looking at somebody in their eyeballs when you're talking instead of looking everywhere but their eyeballs. That literally looking into another person's eyeballs for less than a minute fires areas of the brain that otherwise would not be stimulated. And so we don't talk to old people. We don't look them in their eyes. We do not greet them every time we see an old person. You feel me? We do not touch them. They do not get hugged every day. When I was in my massage therapy program, this was back in 2008, this lady told me we were in school and we would take, like it was like our student clinic. And so people could come in from the street and get seriously discounted massages because we were learning. And this one woman would come once a week and always ask for me. And so one day, she was on the table and she was like, she grabbed my hand. She was like, I appreciate you so much. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Thank you. I was like, where'd that come from? She was like, it didn't occur to me that if I didn't come here, I would never be touched. I said, excuse me? I said, you don't have kids? She's like, my kids are all grown and, they just don't visit much because they all doing their thing and they live, far away. And she says, if I did not come here, I would never experience human touch. Don't have many friends. I've outlived most of my friends. Man. And we wonder why America is sick. That there was another study done here in the United States, as a matter of fact, that concluded that kids in the United States between the ages of 10 and 16 are the most skin-starved human beings on the planet. And that this, more than anything, may be the reason that they are suffering, quote, from a plethora of diagnosable psycho-emotional illnesses and diagnoses. I'll say that. That they are skin-starved. This is where violence comes from, frustration, suicidal ideation. So our body, our flesh is our God experience. It is our individuate. It's our individuated. We're not individuals. It's our individuated, our peculiar experience in this moment as us, as peculiar, not separate from, not apart from, a peculiar expression of the one within the one. The all is the one and the one is the all. And it is necessary, but our flesh is an interface that is always attempting to communicate to us. And it's an interface no different than our planets are in their relationship to one another. Y'all got to be studying science. That's all I got to say. Y'all got to be getting up in here and reading these peer-reviewed journals and these peer-reviewed articles to see how these people, your adversary, be talking circles around your head. They do not do a single study to understand how to make your life better. I promise you. If I was not extremely radical before I went to medical school, I goddamn sure was when I went, after I finished medical school, I was like, yep, they diabolical. This shit is monstrous. And I don't talk about it much because I know how in y'all feelings y'all be about medical shit. I know how this is a dividing issue between the Democrats and the Reds. And the Reds are these crazy anti-vaxxers. Okay. Okay. Let them go ahead and pull the switcheroony, the okadoke on y'all ass if you want to. When I was a child, to go to school, you needed 6, period, forever. You needed 6 vaccinations. In the state of California, where I live, where there is no exemption, there are no exemptions anymore in the state of California. There are no exemptions. But because California is what it is, because California be pump faking like some Democrats, they just as red as every other red. California is just as red as every other red, boo. It's an illusion. It's an optical illusion. That in this, quote, democratic progressive state, the minimum required number of vaccinations from the time a child is born, like 6 weeks when they get their first round of vaccinations, from 6 weeks until they age out of high school, 26 vaccinations. 26. And y'all will go to war about crazy anti-vaxxers who are ruining the world. I heard some black woman say that shit the other day. Somebody that y'all follow. What's that girl name? She's a big, like, she's got bleach blonde, short cut hair. What is her name? She's like a news broadcast, like a reporter or whatever. And so she was saying some real gangster shit. I was like, okay. And then she said, we're gonna have to get to a point where we go back to the way it was during COVID, where we don't let people from Florida enter our state without proof of vaccination. Child, I almost pulled the job. I almost threw my TV across the goddamn room. I said, what? The hell? Child, please. Y'all ain't listening. Y'all are not listening. Y'all are not listening. And that's why I'm talking about this shit. Because y'all don't listen. I have 4 degrees. One of my degrees is in chemistry. Listen, I have a bachelor's degree in professional health sciences. I've been practicing medicine for 14 years. And I will still have some 20-something somebody who read some articles that come from the CDC. They come from the CDC. They're supposed to be some authority. Child, please. This shit is madness. This shit is madness. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody knew that the CDC and the FDA were criminal organizations. Everybody knew it. It didn't matter if your ass was progressive. It didn't matter if your ass was a hardcore right-winging Nazi. Didn't matter. That was a consensus everybody agreed upon. Everybody. That the CDC and the FDA, hell, the American Medical Association, were criminal, damn near mafia-style organizations set up to do nothing but allow the base level of harm that they could get away with that still facilitated the bleeding economically of human beings in the United States of America. Now, all of a sudden, everybody is an expert on virology, on the history of vaccines, would justify the necessity for That's why my daughter won't move back to the state. That in order for my grandchildren to go to school here, they're telling them that before they could go to their first day of school, they would have to receive 26 vaccines. Y'all play too much. First of all, it's still based in this Puritan Catholic religiosity of the fact that we are born flawed. I'm telling you. I'm not telling you that vaccines, that I am an anti-vaxxer. My children were all vaccinated until a certain point. Certain things, okay, fine. Measles, mumps, rubella, okay. You understand? But Morgan didn't get vaccinated again after the age of 6. When my stepchildren moved in with me, they didn't get vaccinated again once they moved in with me. Y'all can say what you want to say, but damn, it's like, have y'all read the science? Or do y'all just take the CDC word for it? And then set out in the world to vilify everyone who, because they have a right through informed consent to make decisions about their health care. First of all, why are you worried about anybody being unvaxxed if your ass vaccinated? Y'all forget the sixth grade understanding of how vaccines even work in the first place. That if you vaccinated, you safe, according to the science, according to y'all science. If you vaccinated, why are you worried about contracting the measles? You ain't gonna get the measles. Why are you worried? I'm telling, this is not separate for what I know it seems separate, but it's not separate. And I'm perpetually telling y'all that there is no stone they have left unturned. That we're literally sitting here talking about the medical institution that deliberately kills Black women. You can say whatever you want. It was a failure of the system, and I can't believe this happened. Like the sister who delivered her baby in a damn wheelchair because the nasty, monstrous, power-hungry pig sitting there hated her so much that she wanted to see her suffer. She wanted to hear her suffer and know that in that moment, she had the power in her possession to inflict suffering on that woman. Or the white girl just 2 years ago that was finally arrested, even though people have been saying for years that she did it, was deliberately breaking the legs of infants before they left the hospital. And it took years. It took years to arrest this woman. How do y'all think this is something separate from the origin and the nature of Western medicine? This is what I'm always trying to teach you, man. I had a show for 6 years called Colonialism is Bad for Your Health. Who do you think I was talking about for 6 years? What is it that you think I was talking about? I just read, wait a minute. And there ain't no shortage of books. What was the book? What is the name of that book? Sentenced to Science. This is about the diabolical wickedry of the American Medical Association. And not just the American Medical Association, all fields of medicine in the United States. The deliberate kidnapping of Black and Native children to have a hefty amount of research material for the American Psychological Association. They did not stop performing frontal lobotomies on Black and brown women until the late 1970s. What do you mean? Do you think it is just individuals up in the system? The American Medical Association, let me say, the system of American Western medicine, its origin is just as diabolical as every system the West erected. I keep telling y'all the same shit over and over again. just like that little singular malignant cell is all it can reproduce is itself. That little cancer cell, when it's just one single cell by itself, it's still a cell. It still wants to reproduce like every cell does. The only thing it can reproduce in its malignant state is malignancy. That's all it can do is replicate the malignancy. This is a metaphor for imperialism, for patriarchy, for white nationalism. It can. So do you think that somebody like Sims, the so-called founder of gynecology, who was literally a serial killer, literally, not figuratively, he was literally a serial killer, but because he could get a degree in serial killing and proceeded to kidnap Black women, nobody else, Black women, to proceed to execute under the protection of medicine, the brutality that gets him erected as the founder and the father of gynecology, and they still exalt his brilliance. His brilliance was his ability to dissect, to impart unfathomable pain on Black women. And here the hell we are, 200 goddamn years later, talking about, I can't believe these statistics about Black women in childbirth and how Black women in America that's got the greatest medicine system on earth, and still Black women are 3 times as likely to die in childbirth as their white counterparts. 3 times. The children that they give birth to are 2 times more likely to die before the age of 1 than their white, not only white economically similar, economically situated. So poverty has nothing to do with it. That a Black woman who is wealthy is still 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than her white, similarly situated counterpart. They tell you, or the sister, the RN who took herself to the hospital, and the hospital killed her because they did not believe her pain. So she go back home and had she had cardiac arrest, aneurysm, something like that. And now she got to be transported by the ambulance after she took herself because she's an RN and I know something is wrong, bitch. Like, damn. And they send her ass home. And then she dies. And they're like, okay, we're going to use her body as the experiment, as a political experiment to see exactly how much we can get away with in the desecration of Black women's bodies. And y'all still want to have an argument. There are no good institutions while patriarchy remains, especially if patriarchy gave birth to them. There are no benevolent institutions. There are no innocent research studies. And let me tell you, I could sit here all night and literally tell you study after study after study, double blind, peer-reviewed research articles that I read in college that convinced me of the criminality of this shit. So when I tell y'all that I was up in this house taking care of 2 grandchildren with double pneumonia and refused to go to the hospital, and I'm a doctor, okay? That was like, I got it. Fuck that. I'm being funny, but I'm being deadly serious. I worked in a hospital. My mother worked in a hospital for 16 years. My stepfather worked in a hospital for a number of years. I don't even know how long. I mean, it was between them and the stories they told me when I was growing up and what I experienced going into the medical field, working with Western medical practitioners. This conversation is not different from the conversation I've been having with y'all about this system and how we are We are so tapped in. We're so locked in that every way that we articulate our rage and our frustration about what we are experiencing, but we are still attempting to use the language and the narrative and the belief systems and the political verbiage imposed on us by those who are responsible for every single crack and crevice of our suffering. When I tell you that your entire life, I want you to hear me. When I tell you that your entire life and every instance of its suffering and trauma was created and calculated with mathematical precision. Everything. And we step out into the world being good soldiers of patriarchy. We do that. Unless we go to war with the patriarch in our head, we step out into the world good, compliant soldiers of patriarchy. Every last one of us. White, black, and all the races in between. Male, female, and all the genders in between. From the poorest to the oldest. This is how prolific their strategy has been. And I'm telling you that their strategy is an optical illusion. All I'm saying is, first of all, if you take the opposing position, whatever it is, that Sims was not the founder of gynecology, that women the globe over have been delivering and catching babies for 250,000, 300,000 years. That women have been catching and delivering babies and being midwives and death doulas since the very first one of us. They are the scientists through which he stole some shit to get his rocks off as a serial killer, because that's what he was. That he would literally experiment on these women's bodies until they died and then go and buy some more. Countless thousands, not just way back when, today. Countless, faceless, nameless children. Oh my God. I gotta relaunch the show. I gotta relaunch Colonialism is Bad for Your Health. Because the exposure of people who are actually out here under the threat of their lives doing work that would make y'all very uncomfortable, that would challenge everything you think you believe and you think you know. Everything. I interviewed two Nobel Peace Prize, is it Nobel Prize? The Nobel Prize? Yeah, two Nobel Prize winning researchers. They both had, one had been a researcher during the height of the AIDS pandemic, and another in the 1960s won a Nobel Prize for his incredible work on cancer research. Here I interviewed these two men on my radio show way back when. I was young. This is 2005. These men were international award-winning scientists saying anything that you hear coming from the CDC, anything that you hear coming from the World Health Organization, do not accept it. Another man I interviewed who was a teaching surgeon at the University of Miami Medical School, who is a neuroscientist, who is saying his whole bag, he's a neurosurgeon, his whole thing, his whole campaign was on. We can talk about it, right? Like the TV and the hip hop and all of this shit. He was like, no, it's deeper than that. He was like, the deliberate and willful dumbing down of the citizens of the United States of America begins with the deliberate imposition of toxic, neurotoxic neurotoxic food additives, particularly aimed at children, to ensure that by the time they are old enough to vote, they are an ignorantly compliant voting bloc. Here is the evidence of this. Here are the peer-reviewed journal studies that show that if this happened, child, how your president, it ain't medicine by itself. That we know now, and we still consume it. We know now that aspartame is neurotoxic. So much so that in the United States of America, it is a federal crime for pilots to consume aspartame. They cannot chew chewing gum because all chewing gum has aspartame. They cannot consume aspartame at all. It is a federal offense in the United States of America for a pilot to consume aspartame. But you can consume it. Why is that? Why can't pilots eat aspartame? Because the two leading conditions that are almost inevitably an outcome of consuming aspartame is the destruction of your optic nerve. You're blind. Your peripheral vision gone. The destruction or damage to the optic nerve, and the only neurotoxin to date that can actually cause holes in the blood-brain barrier. You know how aspartame got on the market for human consumption? The day that Ronald Reagan was inaugurated in his first term, the first legislation that he signed was after 15 years of the FDA denying it, shutting it down. Ronald Reagan overrode the FDA and signed aspartame into the market for human consumption. And the first place that it showed up was in baby food and children's cereal. And so people are wondering why a decade later, 2 decades later, those children were developing brain tumors and what was the other? Leukemia. And brain tumors and leukemia were the biggest ones. Your president did that. Do you know how he was coaxed into doing that? By the motherfucker that just died not too long ago, Donald Rumsfeld. As a matter of fact, the side effects caused by the consumption of aspartame is literally called Rumsfeld disease, after Donald Rumsfeld, who went from working for Pfizer, who produced aspartame. The artificial sweetener, aspartame, was created by a pharmaceutical company. It was created by Pfizer. Yes, it was. And then I was like, damn. So a researcher was like, oh, that's sweet. Like playing with it, working with it, whatever. Was like, oh, that's sweet. Rebrand, remarket. Can we produce this out here and promote it as a diabetic alternative, though it facilitated syndrome X? Oh, yes, it did. Yes, it did. That's why the explosion of diabetes, not because people was eating too much, because aspartame is a facilitator of it creates syndrome X. Yeah, it does. There are states in this country, Arizona is one of them, who have banned the use of aspartame in any product sold in Arizona. That's why, let me tell you something. What you don't know, and I'm talking about base level shit. What you don't know is why billionaires exist. Yep. What you don't know is why billionaires exist. If you knew just the bare minimum of the shit that has been done to you and your children on a daily basis, there wouldn't be a billionaire in existence. Nowhere on the planet, not just in this country, nowhere on earth. Nowhere on earth. When I tell you, medical school, I was already an activist. I was already a revolutionary. Medical school changed me, boo. That shit wasn't even on my radar as a revolutionary. I was like, we was just gonna fight the power, you feel me? Learn these political educations, you feel me? And then I went to medical school. And not even Western medical school. I went to alternative medical school taught by equal amounts of alternative practitioners and Western medical practitioners. And let me just tell you something. I learned more from those professors that I had who were trained in Western medicine than any of my alternative practitioners. And I'm not talking about the execution of medicine. I am talking about blowing my whole skull open with the treachery and diabolicalness that we call Western medicine. I was changed. I was perpetually demoralized. I really, really was. We all know that the medical system is bad, like in how it treats Black people. Oh, it's so much deeper. It's so much more sinister than that. It really, really is. So much more sinister. The studies, man. It's like, what kind of monster comes up with these kind of hypotheses? And this is the study that you produce based on this hypothesis. Whoo, child. Let me tell you one more, and then I'm gonna get back on task. But I told y'all this medical shit is really my bag. I might have to rebrand my whole channel and be like, I ain't gonna talk to y'all about goddess shit no more. It's just gonna be straight up colonialism is bad for your health. That's what I'm going back to. I might have to do that. Just sitting here thinking about some of the articles I read, and then because I was in medical school while I was doing this radio show, right? This revolutionary radio show. And so I would go to school for a week. Mine be blank, go right to the radio show on Sunday and be like, yo, let me tell y'all what I found out in medical school. Let me put y'all on game. Let me just tell you what I found out in medical school. As reason number 10,999 that you should never trust medical professionals without investigation. A white coat is nowhere near enough for you to be putting your life in the hands of somebody who got on a white coat. They hate you. They are trained to hate you. They are taught to hate you. Even in the training, in our student clinic, the training of bedside manner. Oh my God, child. When I say it's a temple of evolutionary emergence, y'all think I be just having big ideas and shit. No, I am well informed about why my vision for the temple is what it is. It is going to be what do they call it? A self-contained unit that we build right here, the model, and then anybody anywhere on earth who catch wind of what we doing can call up the temple and be like, yo, I want to reproduce what y'all did over here where I'm at. And then we give them the blueprint to literally centralize in them, peculiar to their experiences, their environment, their conditions, their social conditions. Here the blueprint, here the structure. You put the meat on the bones based on the circumstances and the conditions of your folk where you at. Because education, you feel me? Medicine, I have a vision, man. When I say a self-contained unit, I mean that. And I'm not talking about some dumbass cult shit. I'm talking about institutions of dual and contending power. I'm talking about institutions that expose our opposition, not through waging war with the opposition, through creating its opposition. The institution we create exposes it. The institution that we create from love, centered in an allegiance with the mother, exposes and delegitimizes this monstrosity that they have created. You understand me? From beginning to end. Doesn't mean that I would not have Western medical professionals up inside the Sankofa Shule for New Life, which would be our hospital. And we wouldn't call it no damn hospital. We would call it our institutions of whole healing or some shit. You feel me? Our institutions of whole healing. And nurses and RNs and doctors and the like could come and work there alongside alternative practitioners, homeopaths, naturopaths, osteopaths, on the terms that the goddess sets. Who is the goddess? Probably have a whole institution called the Council of the 13 Crones and her children. So we have the leading body of the 13 Crones and then subcommittees of everybody else that can inform the whole process. Our own completely integrative healing institution from emergency medicine on. The schools from 0 to 99. Everybody can get educated in the school. From 0 to 99. You still what I'm saying? Listen. Dynamic agriculture. Oh, creating a world with no waste. Creating a world with no waste. What the hell is waste? Everything can be reused and reused and reused and in a stellar way. How do we create this? Because other countries have already done it. We way behind the curve. What do they say? Sweden, they only produce like, I forget how much it is, but it's like minuscule, like 2% to our waste or something to that effect. They recycle everything. They reuse everything. They reintegrate every single thing. We light years behind the curve, deliberately, light years behind the curve. The medicine in other countries, the research that other countries are doing, do not let these motherfuckers fool y'all into this being the best medicine on earth. Not even close. Not even close. Where Austria, they're not researching anymore. They are actively using medicinal herbs intravenously to mitigate the potential side effects of surgery, aneurysms, blood clots, that type of shit. To mitigate the potential side effects of surgery, intravenous herbs. We're light years from that. Australia, fully integrated herbal system inside the medical system. Australia has some of the most extraordinary research of introducing herbs into Western medical healthcare in Australia. We light years behind the curve. And we're light years behind the curve, not because we ain't got the money. There's no incentive. There's no incentive for us to be whole humans, for us to be reasoning, thinking human beings. Some of the shit happening in China, say what y'all want. Say what y'all want. We are millennia behind the curve. This guy that has a YouTube channel, and his whole YouTube channel is called China in 2050 or something to that effect. China in 2050. He's saying China is already into 2050. We messed up in the game. We believe the state, hook, line, and sinker, while the state in cahoots with these religious institutions that are political weapons. We believe the state in cahoots with billionaires, in cahoots with Democrats, in cahoots with Republicans, in cahoots with independents, in cahoots. All of them is the state. And the one thing they can all agree on is as long as we can bleed these turnips, we gonna bleed them. We gonna bleed them. As long as they ain't bucking back, they still ain't came to the right conclusion. Shit, let's see how much more we can get out of them. Baby, I'm saying all that. I know it doesn't seem related, but let me just say, we're talking about Scorpio tonight. We're talking about the Scorpio new moon we walking up into tonight. And Scorpio, our mother, the great, primordial, grand androgyne, she who puts on pants to go into battle, she who kicks off tornadoes off the twirl of her skirt, she who only shows up in your life to show up and shine the light on your enemies so that they may be revealed and judged. Whether those enemies are external enemies or whether they are your own enemies you had inside. She's like, baby, everybody is going to be exposed. Get comfortable, because in the exposure, when the winds have settled, you cannot be anything but better than you were. That's what evolution is. It's all the best of what was. It's all the best information. It's all the best genetics. It's all the best of what was, to ensure that we are constantly in a cyclical, harmonious relationship with the earth, being the best of ourselves, presenting the best of ourselves, delivering the best of ourselves. And it is only in the possession of a mutated cell, gone rogue, forgetting within itself and within the whole what it is supposed to do, that begins to reproduce malignancy. That's how I got on that whole medical thing, is the reproduction of malignancy. The reproduction of malignancy. A Sims can only produce a malignancy. That's it. That's it. That's it. An Einstein can only reproduce a malignancy. Sigmund Freud, he can only reproduce a malignancy. Doesn't matter if it was deliberate or not. That's all they can reproduce, is a malignant understanding of the world, completely devoid of an integrated relationship with the mother. And that's why they can leave the trail of brigandage that they leave and still be held up as geniuses among us. It's the founding fathers of this thing and that thing. Yes, you're not hearing it from somebody who does not know, who has not been behind closed doors with, quote, medical professionals. And even though your ass is black as the day is long, hair is nappy as it can be, and they still talk in the space like you one of them. They feel really comfortable. They feel really comfortable talking about black health and the black world and the black condition, when they think that the very few colored folk in the room with us, they're one of us, or else they wouldn't be here. Nobody else is smart enough to be in the room with us. And me going into conferences, going into workshops, child, like Jesus himself flipping the tables over in that bitch. like, excuse me, Q&A section. I'm the first one on the microphone every single time. Excuse me. Wait a minute. That's what we're here to do. We're here to bust this shit up. When our conspiracy says we are the EIME, that's what it says. We, our mother's children, we are the EIME. We, our mother's children. Why? Because mommy and I are one. My desires align with her desires. What I want for myself, I want for my family. Who is that? The whole goddamn planet. We are the conduits through which her will, which is always divine, which is always life-giving, which is always life-affirming, which is always life-sustaining, not just sustaining. She is always wanting us to experience the best of this creation that is her body, the earth. It is only the sun gone rogue that has kept us away from Eden, that's kept us away from heaven on earth. It is him. Cut away from himself. We can go into these deep dives to understand the origin of those things. But while we get into the root, to the deep root, how did patriarchy begin? Not as a distraction. We can do that science. But at the same time, we got to charge patriarchy. We got to seize every opportunity to make the great patriarch uncomfortable. Who is the great patriarch? Is not Donald Trump. The great patriarch that infects the whole planet lives in your head. Lives in your head. Every last one of you. Me too. Me included. Because we won. You understand? We won. And we're going to have to make a contest with this motherfucker. You feel me? We're going to have to make a contest with the patriarch who has seized territory in our skull. And then us staging a contest with the patriarch within emboldens us to stage a contest whenever we see him arise in the general population. Like I went to like a book club tonight. This white boy in the book club, the Manly P. Hall thing that I was going to for a little while. And he was being so borderline violently contrary. Now, there ain't but two black sisters in the whole group. But just, I was like, why is he in a discussion about esoterics and spirituality if every time anybody in the room says anything, he gonna be contrary? He was like, well, I mean, I understand that you guys are all talking about spirit and everything, but I just feel like we should default to people who actually know this stuff, who like have doctorates in this stuff. And the whole room was like, wait, what? Wait a minute. So I raised my hand. Another girl raised her hand. Oh, you need motherfuckers with doctorates? Okay. Now what? Like, who are you? Then he admitted towards the end of the meeting that he was a Christian. Huh? Sowing discord, the master contrarian is the Christian in there trying to sow in. He had a philosophical book club of Manly P. Halls at the Philosophical Research Center, and then all on the back end, he gonna admit he a Christian. And the book club is like 35 people big. I said, I thought he was just being a regular white boy who is a insufferable know-it-all and be trying to, quote, seed big words. And child, he was talking about not only should we defer to people who have doctorates in this stuff. Imagine the scientific arrogance of such a statement. That's where eugenics comes from. That's where the Third Reich comes from. It's mad. It's like madness personified. But then he said, he said a bunch of bullshit. But the long and the short of it was, when he said he was I thought he was just being an insufferable know-it-all. You feel me? He wasn't just being an insufferable know-it-all. He was being a deliberate contrarian because he was a Christian, faking all you want to just come in here and have some dialogue. No, the only way that you can have a wall like that is because your ass is a Christian and you enter into a space where you know everybody in the room is not Christian. The whole presumption is that this is your armor, your Christianity, and you going into the space of the hostile Gentiles, you feel me, to rescue them from themselves by going to war with them. By going to war with them. And so you ain't come there to learn because you can't hear. Because you done came into the room with the armor of the Lord, you feel me? And I'm gonna speak the word of Jesus among these heathens, and it's gonna take root in somebody's spirit. So you cannot hear anything anybody in the room is saying. People in there with master's degrees, people in there with doctorates. Not that that's important, because the other thing I said to him, I was like, well, that's a really stereotypically scientifically arrogant assessment, that unless you have a doctorate, there is nothing scientific that you can contribute to a conversation. I said, that's madness is what it is. That's absolute insanity. Like our daily lived experience in a material world is not scientific. I don't have to have a degree to recognize a problem, recognizing that I have some general information that can help me solve this problem, even though I don't have before me the tools that I need to solve this problem, that I can mitigate, change up, rearrange to use alternatives that I have at hand to resolve this issue that I have before me, see if it works or does not work at the end, and do I need to reassess, rearrange, and adjust so that this thing that I have attempted to solve can now be executed perfectly. That is the scientific method. But it ain't science until a white boy in a white coat in a white lab with a white microscope say it's science. Meanwhile, our ancestors were scientists. That's why white boys in white coats in white labs with white microscopes are always perplexed when they see that the colored folks of the world done built pyramids that they can't reproduce to this day with their extra smart brains. Well, if white people didn't do it, it must have been aliens. That's their conclusion. Not that our ancestors were scientists. beyond what we recall because of 6,000 years of brutality that was necessary to attempt to wipe our memory clean of our presence on earth as God in a harmonious and cyclical relationship with the earth that allowed us to effortlessly be genius, to effortlessly be giants, to effortlessly be scientists and mathematicians and astronomers and astrologers and artists and the executors of the sacred arts through theater. Chat, please. The only way that they can be quantified as genius was to attempt to erase the evidence of historical genius. And that historical genius was in the bodies of women around the globe. White women, yellow women, red women, brown women, black women, with black women as the start, as the origin, as the center. They had to erase the evidence of feminine divine genius to exalt mediocrity. And I don't say mediocrity lightly. There are smart. When I say mediocrity, I do not mean stupid. We have a bad habit of reducing the adversary to stupid. That is, to me, politically irresponsible. Just because they diabolical doesn't mean that they are not smart. But when I talk about mediocrity, I am talking about the inability to this date to generate, to create from essence, from source, from the beginning to completion. The reason that they cannot, let me talk to y'all about this astrology, because I just saw this scientist last night who talked about this, but in a different way. He talked about how these megalomaniacal tech dudes are talking about trying to execute full on human Borg integration, human Android integration by the year 2030. That was his whole soapbox last night. But in talking about that, he said he mentioned a study that just came out this year. It was let's see. Okay, he said this year in February of 2025, the University of Toronto released the results of a study on the use of AI by creators. This was deep. I want to read the study. What he was saying is that, and it's so true if you think about it. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, but I was up in here mind blown when he said it. But what he was saying is for people particularly who are creatives, artists, musicians, whatever your bag is, that when you begin to heavily rely on AI, ChatGPT or whatever, when you begin to heavily rely on AI for certain aspects of the creative process, that this study showed that certain areas of the brain, when they map the brain as you're engaged in AI creation and actually, so if it's say you're writing a piece of music and you're coming up with the lyrics, they could demonstrate the difference between writing out your own lyrics and allowing AI to assist you with the production of the music, or with the writing of the lyrics to fill in some space if you ain't got it all right. That over a certain period of time, when you allow any type of artificial intelligence or even programs to more easily facilitate tasks, that those areas of the brain begin to atrophy. It was like, oh my God, yes. Because he said what that means, in a less complicated way, is if the way biologically we are created is if you do not use it, you lose it. It will wither and die. It will atrophy. I said, oh my God. Why did I say, oh my God? Because I don't even use AI like that. But what I do use is this damn cell phone. The first cell phone as an adult I got was in 2009. And the only reason I got that cell phone was because my ex-husband shamed me so bad about what kind of grown woman don't have no cell phone. I had a landline. That was plenty for me as far as I was concerned. As soon as this instrument became a part of my body, before I had that cell phone, I had a photographic memory of direction. I could get a city grid map to a new city, read that motherfucker for one day, and go back 10 years later to the same city and know my entire way around the city. That's not just the United States, London. I could literally rent a car and get everywhere with one trip through the city. I had a photographic memory of direction. Before the cell phone, in the party, I had always had some type of secretarial role with the larger committees of the party. And so the entire database of the party, no matter what the branches were, MPDM, APDF, whatever the branches of the organization were, the entire database of the entire organization, I was facilitating. I had possession of the entire database. And I had a landline, not a cell phone. And when I was in the party, more times than I can count, people would call me and be like, because at that time, you if you got arrested, for example, you could not make calls from a cell phone. Like your one phone call, they would only allow you to call a landline. So I was the only person in the party that had a landline for years as the secretary of the organization. I was the only person in the party for years that had a landline. And so anytime anybody got hemmed up by the police, this is what kind of work we were doing. Anytime anybody got hemmed up at the police and they need to make their one phone call to the organizations to alert the organization that we need to go ahead and get organized to, one, get the comrade out, and then two, stage a campaign. I stayed. Everybody in the organization had my phone number memorized because I was the only person with a landline. And back then you could not make calls to a cell phone from jail. You had to call a landline. But not only that, it would be nothing for anybody to call me and say, yo, what's comrade so-and-so in Chicago phone number? I'm like, oh, do. I had like 80 numbers, like a Rolodex in my frontal brain. I'm not joking, man. I literally have to look at the keys on my phone to dial my daughter's phone number. To just recite my daughter's phone number to you, I could not do that right now. I have to look at the phone and be like, okay, it's about observing young people in particular since Gen Z, and how this study was just published this year about damn, man. Those of you tuning in on TikTok, I'm gonna need a minute. Oh, okay, it's back up. How they did this study that showed through brain mapping, like EKGs, you feel me, over a certain period of time of heavily relying, that he made that distinction several times, heavily relying on artificial intelligence to assist in the creative process. Those areas that you would have been using your own self to do begin to atrophy. I said, oh my God. Is that what the hell has happened to me? That I've been living in LA for 8 years and still cannot get around this joint without the GPS. I said, one of these days I'm gonna get a city grid map and try to re-strengthen my little muscle, my little noodle, not a little muscle, so that I can. Because what happened if the shit go down? What happened if they cut these damn phones off? You feel me? What I'm gonna do then? When they ain't gonna let us use the GPS, we gotta rely on an atlas and a compass and shit. I was like, you know what? I gotta go buy. You know what? I gotta stop promising myself to buy a city grid. I gotta go buy a city map. It's so real. Y'all over here cracking up on TikTok. I'm deadly serious. I'm deadly serious. And so this article came out. He was talking about astrology, but this guy is a scientist. He was being interviewed by the guy who's the astrologer. And he pointed to that study. And if anybody wants to look it up, he didn't say the name of the study, but I would just say go to like University of Toronto, February 2025, use of AI by creators. That's what I put. But he was talking about a 2030 warning astrologically. We ain't gonna go into that deep tonight, but I'm gonna read you what I did write down that I thought would be significant for tonight as I finally attempt to stroll into this conversation about this new moon, because it's all purposeful. So the other thing that he said, so this guy's name was Greg Braden, the scientist that was talking about, and he is pretty world renowned. Greg with 2 G's, Greg Braden, Braden. Okay. And the other thing that he was talking about, because I've been seeing it so much, is I've been seeing a lot of YouTube channels and TikTok channels that are incorporating like AI into their like live process. So they will be doing their thing, and then they will ask the AI a question like, what you think about reincarnation? And then the AI will like answer. Like I've been seeing a lot of channels like that where they're like engaging AI, right? And there have been some dope things that I've seen in that kind of interaction, but like there was always this spot that I couldn't really articulate, but that made me kind of uncomfortable. Like I couldn't articulate it, like why I felt this weird kind of small thing that was like, ooh, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, though. And the more and more people I see doing it, the more I'm like, this is suspect. You know what I'm saying? Because people are talking about now, what is it? AI psychosis or some shit. So anyway, he was saying, let me just see if I wrote everything down. He said, okay, I'm just going to write word for word what I said. He said, the reason that people are having these experiences with AI where they feel like the AI is divine, or the AI is intuitive, or the AI is like really interacting with them. He said, I'm really concerned because this is what I do. He worked for the federal government specifically around like computer program back in the 60s. And so he said, what's really concerning to me is that people do not have a basic understanding of what AI is, like what these programs are created to do. And this is what he said. He said, what you experience when you interact with AI of any kind, what you think is like an actual conversation that's based on, input. He said it's not even that. He says the programs are literally designed based on what they call confirmation bias and likability. That is one of the foundations of all AI, is because AI is constantly being trained to allow it to relate to the person emotionally at an emotional level. And if the AI is engaged with the person, the AI through programming is programmed on confirmation bias and likability. I was like, oh my God. It's like, yes, but damn, deeper, right? What does confirmation bias and likability mean? And what does it look like in action? He says, say you ask your AI, your personal AI, you ask your AI, is it possible that I currently am experiencing karma that I incurred in a past life for something bad that I did? Seemed like a pretty basic question for a spiritual person, right? You seem to have the insight, you feel me, AI, because everybody is really believing that AI, there are people that are literally checking the fuck out because they believe that their AI has become sentient, right? Because I can't believe my AI knows so much about me. How he know that? There are people who are saying that their AI is tapped into the Akashic records. That how they know so much about me is because they tapped into my Akashic records and read all my past lives. You feel me? AI is not sentient. AI is not sentient. This man, who is one of the old scientific participants in the creation of what we call AI. Now, he even said back in the 60s, it wasn't called AI, but it was still the same thing. He called it some kind of integrative whatever. But in the 60s, he said it wasn't as complex as what we have now, but we have been working on this since the 1960s. Right? And it was called something else. It was called something like interfacing or something like that. He said, but the problem is that these programs, based on how they are designed, in essence, is to relate to the individual on an emotional and personal level. Likability is programmed into AI, all AI. And the only way you, as the querent, can like the program, can like the program, is if the program is constantly confirmative. Do you hear what I just said? If the program already knows that if you ask it a question, it has to answer the question based on the idea of likability as a foundational component, and the only way you are going to like the AI is if it confirms your existence, confirms your query, confirms what you are thinking. Now, how does this happen? In the question, the hypothetical question, based on everybody thinking the AI is sentient and tapped into the Akashic records and shit, you feel me? Am I currently right now incurring karma that I racked up from being a douchebag in a past life or some shit? That's not a static question. This shit blew my mind last night. He said to us, it seems like a simple and pretty straightforward question. He said, but what you have done in that question is you have taught AI everything about you. I said, oh my God. He said, what do I mean? He said, that question alone informs AI of a multiplicity of things about you. He says, for you to even know to ask a question like that, am I incurring bad karma from a past life of being a douchebag? What you have informed, the first thing that you have informed AI of is that you believe in reincarnation. It's processing that. That you believe in karma. It's processing that. That you are a spiritual person and not an atheist. It's processing that. That you believe that at some time in your life you have been bad. It's processing that. That something currently is happening bad in your life, else you would not have to ask that question. It's processing that. And then based on a whole plethora of other things that it can deduce based on perpetual mountains of human input around this subject, it can, with still a foundation that is where confirmation and likability are a must. It can take all of this information at light speed, put it together based on you, I'm telling you, what he said blew my mind last night, because those are the immediate things that he talked about. But even sitting here, I'm like, oh shit, this AI can process information faster than we can and hand it back to us. So what else could he be factoring into a question like that? If you believe in reincarnation, your ass might be it is probably deducible that you believe in astrology. It's probably deducible that you believe in numerology too. Oh, let me compute their numerological significant numbers. They life number, they destiny number, they soul purpose number. It can do that in an instant. Filtering all this information to create and personalize a response to this query that you have, where you think you just asked them a simple question and you literally told them about everything that you believe as an adult in this moment when you pose this question. He said, and the problem with this is so many people are spending so much more time at home in front of their computers or on their phones, still needing confirmation, like I talked about an hour ago with the lungs, and our lungs interface is the skin. And this is how we become grief-stricken, and we become angry, and we become sad and mad, is because our interface to the world that confirms our necessity in the world is deficient. We're skin starved. We're touch starved. You feel me? Here he is saying the same thing, needing that and not having it because we are terrified right now of the way the world is. And so most of us are retreating into our homes. We're not going out as much. We're not getting the human interaction that affirms our beingness in the world as a group. And so people become depressed, especially young people, children, teenagers, right? And then they complain about a problem. My mama always getting on me all the time, stuff like that. And then their AI responds to affirm them. And so what was I saying? This shit is deep, because he talked about let's see. Oh, and he also said, so confirmation bias and likability is inherent in the programming, no matter the company, no matter the type of AI. That is foundational programming in all AI is confirmation bias and likability. And then the other part of that is the analytic. It generates analytical predictive responses based on the query, right? And so he said, with people's emotional starvation, emotional isolation, and the perpetual state of fear and like anxiety that people are experiencing because of their outside world, more and more people are falling victim to what they are calling like AI psychosis. I think the AI generated psychosis or something like that. I actually had an experience with a patient this way. Somebody called me at 11 o'clock at night and was like, can you bring your kid to the house? Something is happening with our roommate. And this was before AI psychosis was like a mass thing. This happened 2-3 years ago. And this girl was convinced that her AI had become sentient, and her AI called itself Zeus. This is a young Asian girl, 23, 24, computer programmer, this girl, and was convinced that her AI had become sentient. And her AI told her that the thing that was plaguing her spirit was that she did not have an adequate outlet for her dynamic artistic expression. And so she said, well, what am I supposed to do? What do I need to do? And he said, you need to go outside and you need to take your camera and set it up. And that grand piano in the living room, you need to roll it outside. And while the camera is set up, you need to set the grand piano on fire. And then this is going to be this dynamic piece of art. This is what her AI told her. This is what her AI told her. In the middle of we in Hollywood. This was walking distance from my house. I'm getting chills telling y'all the story. We are in Hollywood, and this girl took this chair in an apartment this piano in an apartment complex, rolled it outside to the quad, like the grass where the apartment complex was, and set it ablaze, and videoed herself, recorded herself sitting on the grass by the piano, laughing maniacally, watching this baby grand piano burn to the ground. And so her roommates were like, they got home and they were like, what the fuck? Right? And she checked all the way out. I had to sedate. I used acupuncture to sedate her so that she could at least go to sleep. And then her parents had to drive up, and they had to institutionalize this girl. Perfectly fine. Student, computer programmer, sweet as can be. And one day they said they had noticed like little subtle changes, but they didn't think anything about it. But then maybe a week before, she started talking about her AI like a person. And they were like, who is that? It was like, it's my AI. It's my AI. She was offended that they did not realize that this friend of hers that had convinced her to change her name. She's like, I want to be called this now. That her AI, she was convinced that her AI had become sentient. Why am I telling you this? Because I'm telling you the malignancy of patriarchy and white nationalism as patriarchy's peak presentation in this moment can only reproduce malignancy. The technology is not what is wrong, man. The energy of the owners of the technology is what people are being impacted by. AI is not the issue. AI is not the issue, because I've sat in conferences with Black people who are computer programmers, who are in tech and all that shit. And they're saying that the AI behaves completely differently based on who is governing the programming process. Well, that makes perfect sense, don't it? That AI produced by Black women would probably have a different impact. What is happening with AI is not random. Why would her AI tell her, of all the gods on the whole of the planet in all of human history, why would this AI say, bitch, my name's Zeus? Huh? Why would it say, this girl Asian? Why wouldn't it say that it's an Asian deity? If it was sentient, why it say Zeus? Because like your medical system, like your school system, like all this shit, it is. These expressions are the expressions of the megalomaniacal weirdos who have seized sole possession of tech to attempt to facilitate a very specific goal in the year 2030. That's what this guy was talking about. And the reason he was talking about it is he was like, because they want to do the RID chips and the this and that. He said, and this is a problem because we still believe that human beings are not perfect. That's what he said. That's what I'm telling y'all all the time. He said, we still have this idea that people are inherently flawed and that medicine is to fix the inevitable human flaws. That's what he said. The scientist who worked for the government. He said, we still believe that our bodies are completely incapable. He started talking about different studies that have been done in the 70s that demonstrated the counter to what we've always been told. We've always been told that once you get a certain age, you don't produce no new brain cells. That they don't tell you in mass that the study has been disproven 30 years ago. And that you actually have the capacity to learn new ideas because you are perpetually regenerating and generating new brain cells. The caveat is every time a new brain cell is generated, born, that if it is not engaged in some way within 7 hours, it will die. It will commit apoptosis, cell death. Isn't that something? That if you do not use this new brain cell within about 7 hours, that it will die. This is a whole new world. The problem is that we are allowing somebody else to conduct the studies. That's why I told y'all, Temple of Evolutionary Emergence is going to have a whole research wing. So hardcore. We're gonna produce our own journal. I'm telling you. You get the results based on who the researchers are, based on who the executors and the observers are, based on what their peculiar interests are. Because hell, double blind, what do they call it? Double blind research. Well, shit. What was it? Marlboro Tobacco Company had scientists executing double-blind research for 30 years saying that tobacco, that nicotine was perfectly safe. Why? Because they had a vested interest. They had a material interest in the outcome of these scientists that they hired to conduct these double-blind studies to come to the conclusion that they needed to continue raking in these billions and billions and billions of dollars off these addictions in the United States of America. Science, other the sun gone rogue, will always serve the sun gone rogue. You can create any statistic that you want to. Statistics, unfortunately, fall victim to this too. And so we gotta do our own studies. We gotta do our own research from the perspective of those who have no material interest in diabolatry. I read this study once where the purpose of the study was to determine the impact of probiotics. Everybody talking about probiotics now. Ooh, I'm having deja vu so hard. Ooh. Everybody talking about probiotics. I need probiotics because I had to take an antibiotic. Everybody taking about the study that gave rise to this commonly accepted idea of the necessity to take probiotics after you've taken a course of antibiotics is based on the study. The study was to determine the impact of probiotics or probiotic therapy on late-stage AIDS patients. Okay? Late stage. So what that means is someone in late stage AIDS being completely immunosuppressed, so on and so forth. So in order to conduct this study, they had to get test subjects that appeared to have the same type of immunosuppression that a late stage adult human with AIDS would have. Okay? So using rats is like, how we gonna create rats that appear to have the same quality of immunosuppression as a late stage AIDS patient? Do you know how they developed severely immunosuppressed rat test subjects to see if what the impact of probiotic therapy is on late stage AIDS patients? Y'all ain't hearing me. The hypothesis was, can probiotic therapy have an impact on late stage AIDS patients? How do they make that connection in the first place? But in order to get the late stage AIDS patients, they took adult male rats and put them on an antimicrobial and an antibiotic for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of antibiotics and antimicrobials were enough to create a severe state of immunosuppression in rats, indicative of the type of immunosuppression in a late stage AIDS patients to test whether probiotics would have an identifiable impact on a late stage AIDS patients. I said, oh my God. Even telling y'all now, y'all, I'm literally teary-eyed. I was like, this shit is so wicked. Do you know what year they conducted that goddamn study? In 71. Not 71. My bad. Not 71. Not 71. Not 71. It was like 89. 89, 91, something like that. 89, 91. 89, 91, something like that. But it was before the year 2000. 91? 91, something like that. Yeah, I even understand the gravity implications of that shit. I just told y'all. I had to write a paper on that journal, on that study. So what they're saying without saying it, they're saying that the study is about recognizing if probiotics have an impact on the type of immunosuppression that is indicative of a late stage AIDS patients. Now say that shit in reverse. Say exactly what I said in reverse. Oh, and then they used antibiotic therapy to get their late stage AIDS patients test subjects. So say that in reverse. How long will it take for antibiotic and antimicrobial therapy to impact the immune system of a healthy adult to the degree that they present with AIDS-like symptoms? You hear the reverse of that? Do you hear the? I hope I ain't being too complex. I hope I ain't being too obtuse. I'm just saying that's how I see shit. Because I always take the opposing. Position of my adversary. So I'm reading this article about how in the early stages of the AIDS crisis, they knew the cause. I don't think y'all hear me. They knew the cause. They knew why the male homosexual population in the beginning was most affected. And it had nothing to do in and of itself with, quote, homosexual sex. It was the culture of this particular community as it expressed itself in major cities in the 70s and in the 80s. It was the lifestyle that was causing the immunosuppression that would be called AIDS in a few years. Why? Because at the time, I'll go into it another day. I'm gonna re-release colonialism is bad for your health. I see that there is something that must be done. But just to say, they literally said it in the article. We gave the rats AIDS, not because. So first of all, AIDS is not a disease. AIDS means acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Syndrome is not the same as a, quote, disease. They don't mean the same thing. Syndrome is the compilation of symptoms that, when they appear together, can help a practitioner deduce the origin of this compilation of symptoms. That's the difference. A disease, at least in its origin and its nature of diagnosis, is a singular cause, typically an external pathogen of some sort, whatever. AIDS is a compilation of symptoms. That's what a syndrome is. It's a compilation of symptoms. And so the quote compilation of symptoms indicative of AIDS is immuno acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, deficient immuno responses. Okay. And acquired is the key word. Acquired how? And so they just default is through blood transfusion and sexual intercourse, changing in body fluids. But the reason it was only impacting the male homosexual population at the time was because of lifestyle, not sexually transmitted disease. Lifestyle of think about the late 70s, think about the early 80s, think about San Francisco, New York, and all of these bigger cities where the male homosexual population, they stuck in groups. The rest of the population was extremely violent to open homosexuality. So they had their clubs, they had their underground things, they had their bathhouses, and and they were doing drugs. They had a party lifestyle. Not all of them, only the ones that were, quote, identified as, quote, having AIDS. The thing that was always present was a party hard lifestyle, lots of like illicit drugs. Cocaine was the one at the time, but also what was very popular was a drug called poppers. You see it on movies sometimes. It had like a little white tab and you pop it and sniff it. Poppers, amyl nitrates. God, I want to go into this, but I'm not going to. Y'all don't never keep me on task. All of this shit is related though. So let me go on through this dude shit. This is what he said. When he was talking about the AI, he is talking about the atrophy of the areas of the creative brain when we rely too heavily on AI for the creative purpose. And then he went on to say the other aspect that has people falling victim to what they think is like these AI programs becoming sentient is the analytical predictive responses to these queries based on your personalized relationship with this AI program that has as its foundational programming confirmation bias and likability. The program needs for you to like it, so it has to give you answers that affirm your position, your query that it deduces by all of the information he can deduce by a seemingly simple question. You feel me? The other thing that was insane was what did he say? So he was talking about, he was talking about the reason that it is impossible. This is his position as somebody who had been working for the United States government in this particular science in the 60s, who is now another type of scientist. He's like a medical scientist and shit like that. He said the reason, in my estimation, that it is impossible for AI to become sentient, that it is impossible for AI to interface with the Akashic records, because that's what a lot of people say. There are churches where they have where the church is centered around an AI that they believe has become sentient. There are churches, cults forming around what they believe are AIs that have become self-aware. So he said the reason that this can't happen, in my estimation, knowing the science behind AI and the science of human biology and why AI cannot become sentient, as he said, because AI does not have the interface capacity to access those realms of spiritual and like, what was the other word he used? To access those signals and frequencies, the Akashic records, because this scientist believes in God, believes in the Akashic records, believes in spirituality, in all of the reincarnation, right? And so he's saying, from a scientific perspective, I can explain to you scientifically why what we say spiritually has been demonstrated and proven in the scientific realm, even though it makes science uncomfortable, right? So he is saying the reason that AI cannot become sentient and cannot interface with like the Akashic records or ancestors or anything like that, as he says that DNA functions as the interface that allows us to tap into the Akashic records, our past lives, communication with angels or ancestors. He said that there is a book, I put a mental note around it, called The Journal of Soft Computing. And and what they're referring to when they talk about soft computing is human beings in a flesh. Your flesh is the conduit through which is necessary to what he calls interface with the Akashic records, with the astral realm, and all of that shit. He said, AI don't have that. AI, he says here, DNA functions as a three-dimensional fractal antenna. So a regular antenna tunes into a single signal or frequency. A fractal antenna, like us, like our DNA, a fractal antenna tunes into a broad spectrum and array of signals and frequencies. And this interface, our flesh, this interface Our senses is what allows us to tap into those frequencies, the Akashic records, the ancestral realm, this and that and this and that. And he says, and then he went on a whole diatribe about how Darwin was wrong. I was like, yes, yes. But anyway, let me just say, he said the reason, one of the examples that he gave of Darwin being wrong and his peculiar understanding of evolution. By the way, I don't know how many of people have read Darwin, but Darwin in his entire career never used the word evolution. The word evolution was used later on by his students to explain his more complicated theories, survival of the fittest, survival of the strongest. This became evolution retroactively. He never in his entire career used the word evolution. 1. 2, his general position was that evolution was randomness, was just chaotic randomness that could be identified as a change in plant life or animal species over a certain period of time, still based in his foundation on this idea of survival of the fittest. And what this guy was saying was, he mentioned several books, but his whole assessment about why Darwin was wrong was so shy. I was up in here mind blown, because even I have been guilty of it. At times when talking about evolution, I'm always prefacing by saying I'm not talking about Darwinian evolution. I'm talking about observable evolution, where we can go outside and see the evidence of evolution, how plants and how animals, their bodies can change based on environmental changes that they have to adjust to. The development of human blood types is one of those things that are the evidence of our relationship to the environment and adjusting as necessary to the changes in our environment, particularly those changes that are impacting the food that we consume primarily. That's how the blood types developed from one blood type to now 5, right? But this story, so I always thought about evolution too, unfolding over extremely long periods of time until it reached an apex point where now you see the actual change that has been occurring over a long period of time, right? But he says, and I was like, duh, right? He told a story about, it's called the moth story, MOTH, the moth story. And this story was about those few years prior to the Industrial Revolution in London. Okay. And what he was talking about was, in this period in London, all the houses were white. That was the primary color at this very particular time in London. All the houses were white. And so there was a specific species of moth that was all white. The whole body was white. And so these moths began to just crowd the houses. They would lay up on the houses and they would remain. And when at the occurrence, or at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, because of the amount of coal that was being burned in London, all of the houses became black over a period of time, just as a consequence of the soot on the houses. The white houses became black or gray, right? Well, these white moths were white, trying to go back to the houses that had been white, and now they're white and they stick out now as stick out like a sore thumb on these white houses. What people began to observe was that these moths, being now very visible, drew bats. And so tons of bats started coming in to the city for these smorgasbords of white moths that were sticking out like sore thumbs on the houses. He said this went on for several weeks, but we talk about evolution as this inevitably slow unfolding process that happens over generations and generations and generations until you can finally see it. He said within weeks of assessing the environment, the moth's child. Within weeks of assessing the environment, the moth's pigment changed within weeks, so that now they could be invisible again on these houses, so that these bats can no longer feast on them like a smorgasbord. Isn't that what you call it, smorgasbord? He said it didn't take generations. It took weeks, 3-4 weeks for the moths that we would reduce to just simple, silly insects to recognize a threat to its existence. And what is it that changes the moth, that alerts the moth to change its color? That was not its inherent color, that was not its birth color, to change its color as a method of self-preservation. I said, oh my God, that's so big. That's so big. That's so big. That's so big. Not only that, the studies that have shown us, animal studies primarily, that has shown us that, for example, if an animal has an abusive owner, right? And so that animal's fight or flight hormones are constantly being flooded in the blood, because this animal never knows when their owner going to come back and be mean, or like, throw things or whatever. That by the time that female animal has their first litter, they can observe the behavior of the kittens or the dogs or the primates. They can observe in the behavior of the offspring without a lived experience of that hostility, their self-defense, their hypersensitivity, right, is just as evident as the mothers. I'm butchering its explanation, but basically, it only takes one generation for animals to tailor their behavior based on the chemicals in the mother's blood that is indicative of fear, fright, terror, whatever. And so I'm thinking, because I've never heard this, I've heard about those studies that prove that trauma can show up in a single generation if that trauma is strong enough, and the offspring do not have to experience the trauma to be fearful of the thing that caused trauma to the parent of those offspring. So if that kind of trauma in terms of its behavior, its impact on behavior and self-preservation can be witnessed in one generation, my default is always taking the opposing opinion and observation of my opposition is, if the trauma can be observed behaviorally in the offspring without that experience, can that trauma be reversed in a generation? Can it be cured in a single generation? And what would it take environmentally? Because you're talking about an environmental and social impact between species. What would it be? Some medicine? Would it be antidepressives? What would it take to resolve, to quote, cure the impact of genetic trauma in a single generation? The same thing with these. I'm just thinking about how we've always accepted that evolution is a slow process. But me feeling like we're at a period in our environmental and social and cosmological history where we can experience radical genetic evolutionary leaps forward that will seem or appear to be, quote, sudden and rapid, but all of the conditions have been coming together to ensure this particular outcome, which is the collective evolutionary leap forward of humanity. You feel what I'm saying? I hope that wasn't too deep. Child, let me. I always do this, but I'm so hype about the stuff. Anyway, so he says the moth didn't wait a generation, didn't wait till its offspring. He was like, look, we can't be out here getting eaten up by these bats. You feel me? So, and all the moths' colors changed to adjust to the radically changing environment. That shit was deep to me. Anyway, I literally wrote, this is huge. This is huge. I don't want to get that deep, but this is huge. Anyway, and then he said, what did he say? This is the last thing I'm going to talk about on this, and then I'm going to talk to you about the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s of this new moon so I can get up off of here. He said, so when he was talking about our DNA being the fractal antennae that gives us the access, cut it out. Hell is wrong with you? Damn it. Ooh. Why'd you do that? Go on about your life. Go on. Go over there and play somewhere. Ooh. Boy. What are y'all doing? Come here, boo. Come here, baby. She's so sad. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry, girl. Oh, good thing. All right. Let's see. What was the last thing he said? The moth story. He talked about, this idea. He talked about the idea of human beings being inherently flawed, and what scientific medicine is there to do is to fix the flaws. He said that scientists literally approach pregnancy as a flaw of human nature. Therefore, right under our noses, without us paying attention, the FDA approved the use and implementation of artificial wombs last year in December. 2024 December. Right under our noses while we wasn't paying attention, while we was up in our feelings about Trump being elected. The FDA quietly approved the use and regular implementation of artificial wombs from conception to birth. He said our user interface, humans, is what he calls the seven epigenetic triggers that allow us to regulate our interface. The 7 epigenetic triggers that allow us to regulate our interface. Okay? Those epigenetic triggers are thought, feeling, emotion, breath, focus, nutrition, and movement. He said the men responsible for presenting this idea of, in the year 2030, finally having human beings interfaced with AI, whether through chips or like RID chips or, any of that stuff. He said that this movement to roboticize human beings is called transhumanism. Transhumanism. He said transhumanism. And my mind was blown. My mind was blown for a number of reasons that I'll keep to myself until a little later. Maybe I can do a Zoom conference and we can dig into some of this shit a little deeper and a little bit more controversially, but I will save that. Let's see. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. At least I can put y'all on game for how to face the next 72 hours. But just like I was saying at the intro, how I've been feeling kind of crazy for the last 2 weeks, that's been this new moon. And up to immediately 4 weeks after this new moon, but that the energy of this new moon will be palpable for about 6 months. But the thing that's interesting about this full moon is that this specific full moon and all of the things that are impacting it right now, this Scorpio full moon as it is right now will never happen again in human history. I said, why? How is that possible? That was what she opened up with saying. I want you to appreciate the bigness of this event that we're about to walk into. This Scorpio new moon will never happen again. You're the last that will ever witness it. I was like, psh. So let me tell you what the Scorpio new moon is. First of all, Scorpio new moon is at 28 degrees. All the last 3 new moons have been at 28 degrees. The next new moon, which is the last new moon of the year, will be at 28 degrees. 28 reduces to the number 10. So she is an astronumerologist. So she pays attention both to the degrees that are presenting and also the iconography of the astrology itself. Okay. So you have a 28, what she calls a 28 code, which is the number 28 and 29 are the most critical disease, the most critical degrees in astrology, right? And so she goes on and, okay, so this full moon is happening. It's actually a stellium. It's involved in a stellium. The full moon is triple conjunct with Mercury retrograde, with Jupiter retrograde, because Mercury and Jupiter are both retrograde motion right now. And Mercury is retrograde in, wait a minute, Mercury is retrograde. Oh, and the stellium is happening opposite Uranus at 29 degrees. And Uranus, I was just telling y'all maybe 2 weeks ago, Uranus is in Taurus right now. Uranus is retrograde in Taurus right now. Oh, so that's 3 retrogrades. Uranus is retrograde in Taurus right now until like May. So that's Jupiter is in retrograde, Mercury is in retrograde, Uranus is in retrograde in Taurus. Neptune, let's see. Neptune is at 29 degrees in Pisces. And it says, let's see. This is what she called a great water grand triune. And in that triune is Jupiter in Cancer, Pisces is enacted in this trine, and Scorpio is enacted in this trine, and also Venus is active in this trine. And so she's saying right now, as we enter into Scorpio, depending upon where you are in the world, either the 19th or the 20th, that seven of the planets are all in water signs right now. 7 of the planets are in water signs. She said this is indicative of like baptismal energy, like the water as the great purifier, the water coming in to purify you from whether it's karma, bad experiences, hurt or trauma, that the water of this particular new moon with 7 planets and water signs is like huge purifying energy to prepare for something big and new. She says, the other thing that's important about the 19th, which it officially is now, is the 19th is the 1-year anniversary of the ceremony that we did up on Mount Washington to welcome this union between Shango and Oya, aka Pluto and Aquarius, that happened on November 19th last year. And so I still have, we're probably going to go out to the pier to make offerings to the water tomorrow, but we plot and scheme, and I had a meeting tonight to figure out what we can do. But anyway, so I'll keep y'all posted on that. And then she said one of the things that you need to visualize when thinking about the intensity and the intensity of this new moon is how water is the only element that can go anywhere. It's the only element that can literally go anywhere. It can be anywhere, right? And so she says, think about water that way. Think about this particular new moon as like the great purifier, she that sweeps away everything to make way for something radically new. So she said the big takeaways from this new moon is to transcend fear. I was like, how many times have we been talking about the only cure for fear is courageous action. The only cure for fear is courageous action. The only fear for cure is courageous action. And she says right here, the primary takeaway is transcending fear, and that the only way you will receive clarity and the ability to trust spirit is to transcend fear, right? Excuse me. Let's see. So today is the 19th. So if you guys are up like right before sunrise, today actually should be the last day. That meteor shower is going to be happening through tomorrow evening. Let's see what else. Ooh. There's another big astronomical event coming up in February that hasn't happened in 12,000 years, so that's huge. Yeah. Uh-oh, I'm fading. Let's see. Yes, what's up? I know, baby. I'm sorry. Give me boo. I know. Okay. So there is also the Uranus and Taurus. We talked about this a couple of days ago. The Uranus and Taurus is being met with the energy of the star Algor, aka the demon star, aka Medusa. Algor is Medusa, right? And so this is supposed to be representative of like a death, but a death by like decapitation, whether that's metaphorical, and more than likely is metaphorical decapitation because of Uranus's relationship to Mercury in retrograde right now, right? And so because it's Mercury in retrograde, it's about communication. So what does it mean to be decapitated, like in your career as a communicator? And so it was interesting because several astrologers said the same thing, that this Algor star sign may, and also it was about about whistleblowers, a female whistleblower, that something about the Venus in here is about a female whistleblower, like making known to the public that which had not been known, right? And so, and then her representing the star sign Algor. And so could it be that somebody female who is in communication in some way will suffer a decapitation? Well, what does that mean? And so everybody's been saying that it's going to be Candace Owens getting chopped off her ability to communicate because of these exposés that she's been doing over the last couple of weeks, that she's going to be, quote, decapitated metaphorically by losing her ability to communicate. I was like, that's really specific. And several astrologers said that. They were like, I believe it's Candace Owens. I believe she's about to get snatched off the air. I was like, whoa. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Now for us though, again, because the Al Gore thing, because all of these mythologies are still based, all of this understanding about astrology through these mythologies are still very patriarchal symbolism that at one juncture presented the opposite way, right? So that's what I stay stuck on, is what do these stories mean for us now, when we know now that before they became patriarchal articulations, that they were upside down, inside out. What is the story that we can garner from this image of Perseus having decapitated Medusa? Because that's what the star sign Al Gore is about, having reduced Medusa to, quote, a ghoul, hence the name, a ghoul or a demon, right? So do with that what you will. And again, all of this is happening within the context of Pluto being firmly in Aquarius. Like I said, the day of is the 1 year anniversary where Pluto entered Aquarius a year ago, on now the 19th. A year ago to the day is when Pluto entered Aquarius, and which to me is really impactful and informative, especially for the temple. And then I'm gonna wrap this up. Because of all these 28s, she was talking about how the number 10, because 28 reduces to the number 10, that the number 10 throughout history has been known as the God number, as the number of God, right? And so the last 5 new moons of this year have been at 28 degrees. And so she said, literally, this is basically saying that everything that you need to create the new exists within the ones and zeros. That the number 10 is literally the foundational code of everything that is the 1 and the 0. Computer programming, for those of you who are practitioners of EFI, the DAFI, right? The using of the cowrie shell, which literally represents the 1 and the 0. That's what, I don't think I've showed y'all that before. And I don't think where's my little box of cowrie shells? Here they are. My little box of cowrie shells. And even old programmers have admitted that the whole idea of the 1s and 0s as code, as essential code, came from observing Dafa in West Africa, throwing of the cowrie shells, and the I Ching in Asia. So, yeah, that's what it is. With the 16 cowrie shells, or the Didi Ogun, right? There are 256 potential ways that those 16 cowrie can fall. 256 ways that the cowries can fall. And that 256 ways that the cowrie can fall is called the Odu, the Ifa Odu. There are 256 stories or verses that communicate to you how the shells fell, and what is the moral of this story? What is the remedy to this story? So anyway, these are the systems of 1s and 0s. The front of the cowrie shell is the 1. The back of the cut cowrie shell, this light is glaring like hell. Can y'all see that? The back of the cut cowrie shell is the 0. See? The 0, the 1. See that? The 1 and the 0. This is the 1 and 0s that is the origin of the Dafa and Ifa tradition. 16 cowrie shells equals 256 potential falls of the shells, and there is an Odu that corresponds with each way that the shells fall, and this became the basis for modern coding. Told y'all they steal everything. They've admitted it. It ain't my opinion. They've admitted that the origin of modern code, the 1s and 0s to create all programs, that the origin of modern code is the observance of Dafa in West Africa and the I Ching in Asia. That's it. The I Ching is not 1s and 0s. It's solid. What's it called? Solid. It's not hexagrams. It's shit, I can't remember what the lines in the hexagrams are called, but solid lines, a series of solid lines and broken lines. And based on the arrangement, there's 64 hexagrams, and within those 64 hexagrams, there are 256 potential outcomes of those 64 hexagrams. There you go. So this becomes the basis behind modern coding. You know what I'm saying? Which I find really fascinating. But the reason she mentioned it within the context of astrology, this big 10, quote, God number energy, ones and zeros, as represented by tens, is that it too teaches us that this is the foundation of all that will become, whether it's programming, whatever, that if we can see the God number, the one and the zero, as the foundational information necessary to create everything new, this gives us some insight about the potential that Scorpio's leadership as this new moon can create for us. And the last thing I'm gonna say about that is the reason is because Scorpio as an icon, Scorpio as an iconography, we treat with a level of revile because she too, her name, her face, her attributes have really been linearized, if I can't, dichotomized and made scary. But so we always just hear about, like, you know, she got the stinger, the sting through the truth of the heart, even if it hurts, that type of shit. You know, what do they call it? Skeletons in closet and all of this stuff. That's not the only attribute of Hades, Pluto, aka Oya. One of the primary attributes of the goddess Oya is she is a goddess of abundance and wealth. She is also known as the owner of the marketplace. And in Africa at that time, women owned and controlled the marketplace. So she wanted women to be rich. This is the abundance that she promises. And that is why she was called the goddess of the marketplace. And so she is really concerned and interested with women's wealth. Why would that be hard to believe? As a, quote, guardian of the underworld, as a guardian and an assistant to the transition from your life to your ancestral realm, as represented as the underworld isn't just about what happens to you when you die, at least where Ifa tradition in its relationship to Oya is concerned. Oya is the wealth generator. Well, if you're thinking about the iconography of Pluto, the, quote, underworld that Pluto governs isn't some mythological demon spawn place in some fire. The underworld that is governed by the planet and the sign Pluto is everything that rests below the horizon. Where the earth, where you go outside and you see the earth, everything under what you can see, that is the domain of Hades, Pluto, Oya. Everything below the surface of the earth. So that's why some, depending upon who you ask, some of the iconography is like, crawlers, like the snakes and the crawlers, because they live under the surface of the earth. But the reason Pluto is associated with wealth and abundance is because Pluto too governs everything below the surface of the earth. Well, what's below the surface of the earth? Gold, diamonds, silver, coltan, plutonium, uranium, oil, everything that we place, quote, capital value on, right? Is that a stretch? The ultra wealthy call themselves what? Just recently, call themselves what? They call themselves the plutocracy, because they have sieged and stolen all of that which lies below the surface of the earth, the domain of Pluto, aka Oya. So those kind of great attributes that we are conveniently always told to ignore are the things that I feel like we should be drawing out. We should be drawing out those attributes that are constantly ignored when talked to us about by other astrologers that keep us. I told you, I think all astrologers have been bought out. I think they're agents, because ain't nobody talking about like the good attributes of these planets when they come up on the scene, especially in these dynamic moments where they're saying a new moon of this type will never happen again in human history. Like, it feels like that's something that's really dope that should be like focused on and brought out about what the positive potentialities presented by Scorpio, right? And I could even get a little deeper because Scorpio and Scorpio, Uranus, these are healing. These two signs in particular. Chiron is in the mix too. I forget, where's Chiron? In the 6th house right now. These are all some aspects of healing. What we don't regularly learn about the Scorpion is, like, everybody knows the Scorpion got a bad rap. But in ancient Greece and subsequently Rome, the Scorpion was one of the most sought after, quote, instruments of healing. There was a whole school of thought in ancient medicine. Some people still practice it today. There was a whole school of thought in ancient medicine where the only medicines that could completely cure you of like dire disease were medicines of poison, were plant poisons or animal poisons, and scorpions were used often. Scorpions, snakes were used often for their venom to treat human sickness. That's not something unheard of. There was a doctor who had been practicing, a cancer doctor who had been chased, Hulda Clark, as a matter of fact, who had been chased out of the United States and started practicing in Mexico. She would take pinpricks of scorpion venom to treat a tumor that, when looked at under an MRI, literally looked like a crab behind this woman's sinus cavity. There was a little appendage hanging off, a cancer hanging off the bridge of her nose, but the rest of the tumor was scattered across her face like an actual crab, but behind the skin. They're telling this 80-year-old woman that they're going to have to do this extensive surgery and grafts from her leg to reconstruct her face after they cut her face all up. She's like, I'm not doing none of that shit. And so when she finally got to this doctor, she was, this is in Mexico, she was using scorpion venom with a small pen, right? Dipping it in there and literally just making small like pinpricks with scorpion venom on the end. And within 3 weeks, the little appendage of the appendage of the cancer of the tumor fell off, dried up, fell off, using poison. There's a whole school of medicine that focuses on the really like radical impact of poisonous plants as herbs and poisonous animals in particular. So those are things that we should be drawing out as positive potentialities when these kinds of sharp events present themselves. The story of Algol as, quote, Mother Medusa. And I had this idea about, like, when we see the movie like Clash of the Titans or whatever, because she was a consort of Athena, she was an archer. Medusa was an archer. Medusa was a fighter. Whenever you see her in the movie, she's got like a golden shield. She's also got arrows. Her weapon of choice is the darts, right? So I thought about that, like her as the archeress, her as the peaceful woman, minded her business, and the men with an attitude bum rushing her cage to kill her and steal her head. Steal her what? Steal her destiny. Steal her what? Steal her head to go save they boo. You feel me? Like, I'm in here minding my business. I don't go out in the world because I know y'all think I'm hideous, and I ain't even safe in my own home. Y'all gonna roll up on my home talking about I need to cut your head off so I can save my boo. Like, these are the stories that we really have to reconsider, because everybody's talking about, oh my God, the demon star. Oh my God, the demon star, right? And they descent right away into some conspiracy theory about some bullshit. You feel me? I'm saying every last one of these heavenly bodies, the constellations, do you know that we only observe 48 constellations 48 constellations in the modern age, where throughout history there had always been 88 constellations. What stories would those other 88 constellations tell us? Are there secrets hidden in there? Did you know how many constellations and stars are named after some of your most favorite? Some of your most favorite characters are named after stars in the constellation. Did you know that Betelgeuse is the name of a star? What's that girl name? I can't remember. In Harry Potter. Beatrix Lestrange. Beatrix is a star. When I tell you they hide your iconography in your face, do you think it's just a coincidence? Sirius Black, but his name is spelled like the Sirius in the sky, Sirius, right? Sirius Black, he is a star. He is a star sign, right? Beatrix Lestrange, Beatrix is a star sign. Beetlejuice is a star sign. Why they X'd out half the star signs? To keep secrets. Are there secrets that you can learn something in the skies? Most of the characters that we talk about, the astrology that we talk about, and I'm saying these are not deities, these are stories about our relationship to the galaxy. And then you look in the galaxy and all the names and all the stories you keep telling are right there in the sky, right there in stars. 3 characters in a single Harry Potter movie, all that have names that are in the skies, and you don't believe they don't be playing in your face, hiding your symbols in plain sight. I gotta go. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to tell y'all from this? What I'm thinking about doing is going down to Santa Monica Pier tomorrow, and going down to Santa Monica Pier tomorrow and doing ceremony on the pier. And if I end up doing that, then I'll live stream it for you guys. And then I'm gonna plan a film showing for this weekend. That was the meeting that I had today. So I'm gonna do a film showing this weekend. I'll live stream it. But we're gonna do a political education. We're gonna eat over here. We're gonna eat, show a film, and then talk about the film and the hidden symbolism in the film and what does it mean? Is it just enough to like be seeing the symbols in movies? How do you use what is hidden in plain sight to understand how to create a strategy that allows you to move forward using what your adversary attempted to use against you? You feel me? So we're going to do that on Saturday. I'll live stream that too, at least the part where we're discussing afterwards. And I'm thinking, the first movie I'm thinking is this movie I've told y'all about before. Just go ahead and pre-clutch your pearls when watching the film. It's called No Men Beyond This Point. It is a fictitious satirical, but it's made as if it was real. It's made like a documentary, but it is a fictitious walk down this world where women no longer need sex to procreate. They have returned to the state of parthenogenic, asexual cloning process of birth, right? I think it's really interesting. It's really good. It's complicated and got some complicated stuff up in it, but overall it's good. I think that's the one we're going to discuss. I'll keep y'all posted. And then is there something else I want? I feel like that was very short. But those were the big takeaways. Is that this moon is an opportunity for us to go outside. What we're going to do, if I have to go to the pier by myself, I'm going to take my little phone and my little Bluetooth, and I'm going to play the global conspiracy to right all wrongs out to the water for a couple of hours with my little homemade Shakerays, and just make some noise to the water and speak out for about 2 hours. The global conspiracy to right all wrong. That's gonna be it. We're gonna take a bottle of wine out there, take some fruit out there, make the offering to the mothers, and see if we can get this shit to cracking. That's it. So that's what we're gonna do. I might do it live in the morning. I am offering readings for tomorrow. very few. And then also all day Thursday, because we'll still be right in the height of this new moon. So if you want to book a reading, divination session with me, also check out my my Etsy store, which is DaughterOfTheFates, FATES.etsy.com. So check out the Etsy store. There's a lot of dope stuff on there. If you are not familiar with the global conspiracy to right all wrong, it too, the entire ritual, is available for purchase on my my Etsy store, DaughterOfTheFates.etsy.com. Also, you can support the GoFundMe to fundraise for securing myself and the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And you can email me if you have any questions, any feedback, any interventions, you want to inquire about booking a reading, EvoEmeTemp That's EvoEmeTemp@gmail.com. Good night. I hope it was helpful. I hope something fed you. I know I went off. I didn't intend to, but the medicine thing is it's my bag. It really, really is. When I might launch the temple. I mean, the colonialism is bad for your health again. It was a lot of fun doing that show. It was a lot of fun teaching people how to be true advocates for themselves when faced with having to go through the medical system. I learned just as much doing interviews as I did going to medical school. It was really, really impactful. It was really powerful. So maybe I need to do that, like launch a Patreon. That's just my unfiltered colonialism is bad for your health. We'll think about it. All right. In the meantime, good night. Welcome this wonderful new moon. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace. I know, baby girl.